Chapter 1298. The one who snatched the 10 lives heavenly jewels from Sir God Luyuan was Yi Tianyun. When the door was opened, he rushed over quickly to snatch the 10 lives heavenly jewels. He could tell that they were a bunch of people with ulterior motives. They looked fair and just, but they didn't believe him when he said he was fair and just while wearing a mask. As expected, when he rushed over, Sir God Luyuan started snatching. Not only him, but the other Sir Gods also rushed over. However, their speed was too slow, much slower than Yi Tianyun and Luyuan Divine Lord, so they didn't even have the chance to snatch it, but Yi Tianyun and Luyuan Divine Lord had already snatched several of them. Put it down! A half-step heavenly master behind Yi Tianyun shouted loudly and tried to slap Yi Tianyun's face, but Yi Tianyun was stopped by a beautiful blue figure. She waved her ribbons in front of Yi Tianyun and collided with the palm. Pang! Both of them retreated. The one who protected Yi Tianyun was undoubtedly Glaze Region Master. Her speed wasn't as fast as Yi Tianyun and the rest, but she wasn't much slower than the other half-step heavenly masters. If you want to snatch his things, you have to ask me first. Glaze Region Master said coldly. The half-step heavenly master didn't say a word and immediately rushed to the side to snatch the next 10 lives heavenly jewels. If they continued to be long-winded, they might not even be able to earn a single one. As for the late-stage Sir God, it was tragic. When they arrived, there were only a few left. All of them had been snatched by Yi Tianyun and the rest. Without the cultivation of a half-step heavenly master, they were nothing here. They could only be at the bottom. From the beginning, they were just cannon fodder. They were just here to take a look. After Yi Tianyun snatched 5, he quickly returned to Glaze Region Master's side. He dragged Glaze Region Master and flew forward. Let's go! He didn't stay for long. There were so many experts here. If he stayed too long, he would be intercepted. By then, no matter how many pearls there were, they would still be snatched. The Glazed Region Lord did not struggle. She completely followed Yi Tianyun's actions and rushed into the door. It was the same for Sir God Luyuan and the rest. They had more or less gotten 1 or 2 10 lives heavenly jewels. However, Tianyun had gotten the most. Sir God Luyuan had gotten 3. As he possessed the bloodline of rock, he could only get 3. It was a humiliation. Furthermore, he had lost to an expert of the Lord of Heaven. This was the greatest humiliation of all humiliation. The other 2 were taken by 2 half-step heavenly venerates. As for the other groups of people, they had nothing in their hands. However, they could only bite the bullet and rush into the dimensional rift together. Since they couldn't get any treasures, they could only rush into the dimensional rift together. Who knew when the void gate would close? Thus, if he could enter, he would hurry. When they entered, they immediately felt a terrifying pressure pressing down on them from all directions, making it difficult for them to breathe. This pressure is too strong. Let's go. They couldn't withstand it at all. They had to leave immediately. Even if they were late-stage Sir God, they couldn't stay there any longer. It was different from the power of Golden Mirage that they comprehended previously. The moment they entered, they felt a terrifying pressure. It was obviously an offensive power. It wasn't like the ownerless celestial venerate power from before. Some of them didn't believe it and continued to fly forward. What they saw wasn't a good place at all. It was filled with yellow sand. However, it wasn't any ordinary yellow sand. It was the golden sand that was condensed by the power of Golden Mirage. When it blew over, it was enough to lift their flesh. Just then there was a scream. The Sir God who forced his way out was swept away by the golden sand and disappeared. There wasn't even a trace of blood. No one knew where he went. At least, they couldn't feel any signs of life. They were most likely dead. They died immediately after being swept by the golden sand tornado. Wasn't its power a little too terrifying? At that moment, many of the cultivators who had forced their way in noticed the situation of the cultivators who had come in first, especially those with 10 life heavenly jewels. They had a thick protective shield around their bodies that could protect them from any harm from the tornado. A gust of strong wind blew past. They only swayed a little. Apart from that, they didn't suffer any injuries. The 10 lives heavenly jewels were like the pass to the 6th level. Without it, there would be danger everywhere. Now, there were only 4 groups of cultivators who had the 10 lives heavenly jewels. The remaining 6 groups either fled or forced their way in. Damn it. The jewels have been snatched away. If we want to go in, we have to get the jewels. But how can we snatch the jewels? Our speed isn't as fast as theirs. Moreover, they have already entered. We can't catch up. Can we only return the way we came? Damn it. They were filled with indignation. Some of them were afraid of death, so they could only return the way they came. Otherwise, if they really died here, especially if the space-time door closed, they wouldn't be able to get out. Some of them didn't plan to go back. They planned to first control the power of the golden mirage and adapt to the environment here. Just like before, as long as they could control the power of the golden mirage, it would be equivalent to becoming half the owner of this place. Just as they were considering, the space-time door closed with a whoosh and could no longer be opened. Those cultivators who wanted to give it a try immediately revealed looks of despair in their eyes. No! They pounced towards the space-time door, but what they pounced on was a sea of golden sand. There was nothing there. If they wanted to go back, they could only walk forward and find the exit. This was the tragedy of not having the 10 lives heavenly jewels. With the 10 lives heavenly jewels, the situation was much better. After Tianyun and Glaze Region Master escaped in, they immediately felt the 10 lives heavenly jewels emit an endless stream of light to protect them. However, it was only to protect one person. Only by giving away one of the 10 lives heavenly jewels could they protect Glaze Region Master. This meant that 10 lives heavenly jewels could only protect one person. It couldn't be used in batches. Fortunately, you snatched more. Otherwise, only one person could enter. The environment here is too harsh. The power of the golden sand that blew over is comparable to an extremely powerful attack from a late-stage divine lord. Glaze Region Master observed the surroundings. They had already run into the vicinity of a sand dune. Leaning against the sand dune, they examined the surroundings. After entering a new environment, they had to examine the surroundings. There was no point in running around blindly. I know that this thing must be very important. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been left here and made us bring it in. Tianyun smiled. Moreover, no matter what, these are all superior-grade heavenly Dao treasures. We definitely have to snatch them. Glaze Region Master rolled her eyes at him. After thinking for a moment, she said gratefully, "This time, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have to turn back." Chapter 1299. What are you talking about? If you hadn't brought me here, I wouldn't have been able to come to such an interesting place. Tianyun observed his surroundings. This area meant that he could find more treasures. Maybe he could even find the magical gold core. That way, his foundation for the next planet would be guaranteed. You don't have to call me Domain Lord. Just call me Azure, Azure Region Lord said with a smile. This. Tianyun was stunned. His status had risen so quickly? Usually, only those who were at the same level of cultivation or friends would address each other in such a manner. Don't worry about it. I believe you know that people with similar cultivation levels call each other that way, right? Azure Region Lord said. Your cultivation level is only at the Lord of Heaven's level, but your overall level is comparable to mine. So, we can call each other friends. Strength was the most important thing. One moment one might call someone an elder. The next moment one might call oneself a senior. As long as one's cultivation level was high enough, the way they addressed each other could change at any time. If one's cultivation level was lower, they would call him senior. If one's cultivation level was similar, they would call him fellow cultivator. If one's cultivation level was higher, they would call him senior or lord. Here, only cultivation level mattered, not age. This was the principle of the accomplished are the teachers. Then I'll be so bold as to call you Sister Lioli. I can't just call you Lioli, Qin Wanru said. Tianyun scratched his head in embarrassment. He had always called her that. Suddenly changing it was a bit awkward. Calling me Elder Sister Azure is not bad. I'll recognize you as my younger brother. Azure Region Lord squinted and smiled. She liked Tianyun more and more. She didn't expect to find a treasure. She had found a peerless genius. Although she didn't know how he cultivated, she only cared about the results, not the process. As long as he could reach this level, the Heavenly Spring region would have more confidence. Speaking of which, where should we go next? Yi Tianyun looked around. Besides the Golden Desert, there was nothing else. Everything was barren. There were no road signs or signs. It was a dead end. If there were demonic beasts here, perhaps he could catch one or two and let them lead the way. He had done this kind of thing many times, but there was nothing here. It was empty. The only living beings were probably the cultivators who came in. The colored glaze region master turned her head and looked around. She frowned. I really don't know where to go. Without any instructions, it seems like we can only fly forward and take a look. The pearls in their hands did not have the slightest direction to speak of. They could only play the role of protection. Soon after, they began to fly aimlessly. As they flew, all they saw was the Golden Desert. Apart from that, there were no other changes. Occasionally, a golden sandstorm would attack them, causing them to sway in the wind. Fortunately, they had the protection of the pearl. Otherwise, they would have been in trouble. It seemed like there was no problem for the time being, but if they were to be trapped here for a long time, they would also face a huge problem, and that was that their energy would be depleted. Flying casually was a waste of energy, and maintaining the barrier released by the orb also required energy. Before this, it was impossible to use the pearl. However, after entering this place, it was possible to use the pearl, but it was only used to form a shield. Over time, without absorbing any energy, it would definitely run out of energy. This place was filled with the power of magical gold, but they could not absorb any of it, let alone replenish their energy. Unless they cultivated the power of magical gold, they would not be able to stay here for too long. Of course, they could not stay here for too long. It was calculated in terms of tens of thousands of years. They had many elixirs in their storage rings. After so many years, they did not have to worry about running out of energy. However, if they did not return for too long, the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm would definitely be in a mess. Yi Tianyun did not know if the Teleportation God Stone would be effective here. Anyway, teleportation would not work here. If they wanted to teleport out of this statue, they had to at least know where the exit line of the statue was. They had no clue, and they could not escape even if they wanted to. There is no change at all. It seems like we are really trapped here, the colored glaze region master said in a low voice. Yi Tianyun lowered his head to look at the pearl in his hand. He said indifferently, Sister Glaze, did you think of something when this thing appeared? The colored glaze region master thought of something. That's right. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice. For this thing to appear suddenly, it seems like the qualified cultivators are arranged to come in for the test. If they do not pass, this thing will descend to the 5th level again. At that time, the person who snatches it will be qualified to open the door and come in. According to what you said, only 10 people can come in to take the test, the colored glaze region master guessed. I think so. If all 10 people die or all the participants die, then everything will have to start again. Yi Tianyun shook his head. That's the best explanation. It didn't appear all of a sudden, but because the previous group of contestants died, it only appeared now. This time, the colored glaze region master was silent. Thinking about it carefully, it was really like what Yi Tianyun said. It was not a treasure that fell from the sky, but a test for them. However, the maximum number of people was limited to 10. As for how many people would survive in the end, it was not clear. It seems like that should be the case. If we want to get the upper-level Celestial Master's treasure, we can only risk it. The colored glaze region master followed Yi Tianyun and continued to fly forward. Very soon, a few voices came into view. The other 3 batches of people were gathered together and they seemed to be discussing something. Among them, there were some Sir Gods and they were resisting the golden sand outside in pain. They did not have the 10 lives heavenly jewel, so they could only resist with their bodies. As soon as they appeared, the group of people focused their attention on them. At the same time, Sir God Luyuan sent a voice transmission to them. My 2 friends, I wonder if you could come over to discuss something? Yi Tianyun and the colored glaze region master looked at each other. In the end, they flew down. It was not a solution to just keep flying. When they went down, they focused their attention on Yi Tianyun. Many of the cultivators were jealous, and they wanted Yi Tianyun to hand over the 10 lives heavenly jewel. They wanted to hide in a storage space or something like that. Later on, they realized that it was sealed and they could not enter at all. The items could be taken out, but people could not enter. This meant that it was impossible to avoid the rules. They could only use the 10 lives heavenly jewel to protect themselves. There was no other way. Chapter 1300. What do you want to talk about? The domain master stepped forward and asked. The others looked at the domain master. It seemed that the domain master had the right to speak, so they shifted their gazes back to her. It's simple. Can you lend us a few precious pearls? Our companions won't be able to bear it if this continues. One of the half-step heavenly venerables stepped forward. His name was Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor. Although he was a half-step heavenly venerate, he was still a divine emperor. Hence, he had to be addressed as such. No. What does it have to do with us? If we don't have it, will you give it to us? The domain master retorted. If they were in her shoes, would they really give one to her? Don't even think about it. Even if you die, you won't give half a pearl. Why would she help someone who was not related to her? After helping, she might even stab them in the back. This kind of thing was not uncommon. Her words left them speechless. They didn't know how to refute. It's useless to take more. Can't you give us a few more? We'll give you a reward in exchange for it. We'll borrow it temporarily. Along the way, we can advance and retreat together. Isn't that great? Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor said with a smile. Advance and retreat together? That's funny. If you want the precious pearls, that's not a problem. As long as you swear an oath, you'll advance and retreat together with us. You'll protect us and never attack us from behind. We'll have priority in choosing the treasures. As long as you swear an oath, we'll give you a precious pearl immediately. The domain master said sternly. Her words stunned Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor. If he swore an oath like that, would he still need to play around? It was equivalent to being their bodyguard. This Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor would never agree. He just wanted to test whether the domain master would believe him or not. Now it seemed that those who could enter were not fools, especially those who had cultivated to this level. How could they still be so stupid? You have nothing to say? If you don't agree, please shut up obediently, the domain master said coldly. Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor's eyes turned cold. How could he accept being scolded by a woman? Just as he was about to say something, Lu Yuan Divine Emperor stepped forward. That's enough. Stop arguing. Now that all of you are gathered here, we can share the results of our discussion. The Lu Yuan Divine Lord stepped forward and advised, let's not talk about the orb. Let's talk about how to use the orb first. We've been circling around here for a long time, but we've found that we're just going in circles. We think that this should be an extremely high-end illusion, and we can't get out of here at all. After thinking about it, perhaps only these pearls can lead the way. If it's just one, it might not have any effect. If we take them all out, it might have the effect of leading the way. Sir God Lu Yuan's analysis was clear and logical, causing the eyes of the domain lord and the others to light up. They had to admit that this was indeed a possibility. If they did not cooperate, the 10 orbs would not be able to gather together, let alone open up a passageway. Although he didn't know if it would work, it seemed that this was the only chance. However, Divine Lord Lu Yuan appeared to be a nice guy, but he was very calculating and scheming behind the scenes. If one was not careful, they would be plotted against. This was just like when he opened the door earlier. At the beginning, he spoke clearly and innocently. Who would have thought that as soon as the door opened, he would immediately come to snatch the orbs? Even so, they still had to try. Otherwise, they would not know how to get out of here. The other half-step heavenly master had not spoken since the beginning. He acted alone, releasing a cold and gloomy aura all over his body, as if he was an ice sculpture. Without a doubt, he cultivated the ice attribute. Naturally, he would be cold and not good at talking. The domain lord and Yi Tianyun looked at each other, then nodded and said, "All right, let's give it a try." Immediately, They took out their orbs. Yi Tianyun and the others took out the most, a total of 5 orbs, which took up half of the total, making the others extremely jealous. However, they could only be jealous and did not dare to simply snatch them. Yi Tianyun's speed was obvious to all. Some of them could not catch up with him. Moreover, the domain lord was beside him. How could they dare to act rashly? After he took out his jewel, the others did the same. When all the jewel had been taken out, all the jewels suddenly resonated with each other. A beam of light spread out from each other to form a net of light. There's hope. Their eyes lit up. They did not expect it to be true. Only by doing this could they lead to the next route. Just as they were rejoicing in their hearts, the 10 pearls suddenly flew forward, breaking free from their hands and flying forward. Then the 10 orbs gathered again, forming a huge orb. It was the heavenly venerate spiritual treasure, the 10 lives heavenly jewel. Suddenly, they lost their protection and felt a power that could tear everything apart drill into their bodies. However, they could withstand it. They did not have time to check their own bodies and immediately chased after the 10 lives heavenly jewel. After this thing gathered together, it immediately flew forward at an extremely fast speed. It didn't wait for them at all and just flew forward on its own. Without a doubt, the 10 lives heavenly jewel was leading them to the next entrance. The prerequisite was that they could catch up and not get lost. Otherwise, all their efforts would be in vain. Not only would they lose their orbs, but they would also be trapped here. Quick, quick, quick! They wished they had an extra leg. Their speed was really too slow. The 10 lives heavenly jewel was really fast. It covered thousands of miles in an instant. Some divine sovereigns who were not fast enough fell behind immediately. In addition, they were constantly disturbed by the illusory gold power, so they could not keep up with their speed. At present, only the 4 half-step heavenly venerates and Yi Tianyun could keep up with them. You're still too slow. I'll take you with me. Yi Tianyun did not wait for the Glaze Territory Lord to react. He pulled her into his arms and the phoenix bloodline in his body immediately erupted. A huge phoenix phantom bloomed behind him. His speed suddenly increased by 300 times. In addition to the evil Lord of Heaven set on his body, his speed also increased. With a whoosh, the 3 half-step heavenly venerates were pulled apart, scaring them silly. Fuck, he can still be faster? Divine Sovereign Lu Yuan had already displayed the power of the Kuan Peng bloodline. How could Yi Tianyun be faster than him? The Kuan Peng bloodline was definitely faster than the Phoenix bloodline. However, Yi Tianyun directly increased his speed by 400 times. Even if his foundation was lower than theirs, he would still be faster than them under the 400 times berserk speed. However, he was only faster by a little and did not exceed them by much. This was the tragedy of having a low cultivation. Even so, they were still deeply shocked, including the Glaze Territory Lord. Chapter 1301. Yi Tianyun's speed was top-notch. He might not be able to pull away from them, but he was faster than them and could keep up with the speed of the 10 lives heavenly jewel. At the same time, the golden sand swept over from all directions, surging more and more. At this time, the colored glaze region master waved the blue ribbon in her hand, forming a thick wall of ribbons around them, protecting them tightly. The golden sand that came over time and time again was rebounded back. Although the consumption was high, if they were too frugal, it would be courting death. The others were envious when they saw the situation. 2 people working together was better than 1 person. They had to run and block the golden sand at the same time. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling, but they could only do so. Who would have thought that the 10 lives heavenly jewel would suddenly run away, leaving them unprotected? Luckily, their cultivation levels were not low. Otherwise, they would have been swept away by the golden sand after running for a while. Those with high cultivation levels were still okay, but those with low cultivation levels were long gone. Half-step heavenly venerables couldn't even run with them. If they were any slower, they would be trapped here. If they couldn't find the 10 lives heavenly jewel, they would all die here. Hence, no one cared about their companions. As for carrying them and running, that was too difficult. They weren't like Yi Tianyun, who could be so fast while carrying someone. If they carried someone, their speed would definitely be greatly reduced. Hence, they could only choose to give up. In such a harsh environment, they could either die together or live on their own. The key was that the people they brought along wouldn't be as capable as Glaze Region Lord, who could help to block the golden sand. With their strength, it would be good enough if they could protect themselves. How could they help? This was the cruel reality. The group of God Lords gradually disappeared, left far behind, and finally merged with the golden sand. Luckily, we didn't let the other elders come, or we wouldn't be able to bring them along. Glaze Region Lord looked at the abandoned God Lords without any sympathy. She just thought that if their elders came, they wouldn't be able to keep up. If the other elders came together, the best way would be for me to chase and then come back for you. Hyun-yun smiled faintly and said, "There will always be a way. Only a heartless person would not consider such things." Glazed Region Lord was startled. She looked at Hyun-yun and smiled, but didn't say anything. She believed that Hyun-yun would do that, but it would be too troublesome. Following that, Hyun-yun continued to rush forward with Glaze Region Lord in his arms. Along the way, all sorts of illusory gold powers attacked them. With the cooperation of Hyun-yun and Glaze Region Lord, they blocked wave after wave of attacks. Without a doubt, this stage tested them on the impact of the power of illusory gold. Without protection, the difficulty increased exponentially. Plus, he didn't know where the end was. He just needed to keep following it. The 10 lives heavenly jewels did not have any humanity in them at all. They simply charged forward without increasing their speed. However, just maintaining their original speed was more than enough to give them a hard time. They are really fast. If their cultivation levels were lower, they definitely wouldn't be able to catch up. Hyun-yun said in a low voice, or rather, if they aren't half-step to heavenly venerables or have shocking speed, they would probably die along the way. Yes, this might be a form of screening. The jewels are qualified to enter, but whether they can completely possess the jewels is another matter. Glaze Region Lord shook her head and said, "The later stages will definitely be more and more dangerous. No wonder there has been no news of anyone obtaining the Heavenly Venerate's inheritance. Just these tests alone are enough to make one fail." Hyun-yun nodded. He didn't slow down at all as he continued to chase. Following closely behind him were Sir God Luyuan and the rest. They didn't fall too far behind. Their total distance was less than 100 meters. Hyun-yun was faster than them, but not by much. Unless his cultivation level broke through again, then his speed would probably far surpass theirs. Imagine if a first-level Sir God had a speed increase of 300 to 400 times, he would definitely be the fastest person below Sir God. In such a state, they chased for a few days before the 10 lives heavenly jewels entered a space. Hyun-yun hugged Lioli Domain Lord and went inside without hesitation. The rest of the Sir Gods rushed in one after another. After they entered, the space-time door didn't last for too long. Very soon, it disappeared completely. After Hyun-yun rushed in, he immediately felt that the environment in front of him had changed completely. What he saw was no longer a sea of gold, but towering trees and all sorts of spiritual flowers and spiritual herbs. The most crucial thing was that Glaze Region Lord, who was in his arms, had been teleported away for some unknown reason. Similarly, there was no one around. It seemed that she had been teleported away when she passed through the space-time door. It seems that they have separated to other places. Just as Hyun-yun was thinking about what was going on, there was a ray of light above his head. He looked up and saw the 10 lives heavenly jewels floating in the air. With a bang, it exploded in the air. It turned into 10 rays of light that bloomed in all directions and landed in different places. What a scam. We have to look for these lousy things again? Hyun-yun felt helpless. Although there weren't any rules, it seemed that they had to collect the 10 lives heavenly jewels. Otherwise, how were they going to proceed? Unless the 10 lives heavenly jewels disappeared. Now that they were scattered all over the place, there was no doubt that they had to search for them slowly. Forget it. Let's find Sister Glaze first. Hyun-yun took out the evil spirit wheel and placed Glaze Region Lord's items in it. Then, there was a guiding force for him to search. Spiritual consciousness was useless here as it couldn't probe far. However, the effect of the evil spirit wheel was still there. He could still find people here. This level should be an attempt to separate us. But there's no point in that. Tianyun quickly followed the guiding force and went to find Glaze Region Lord. With this thing in hand, he could easily find her. He didn't have to wander around blindly. Having one more person was better than fighting alone. Actually, he could do it alone. However, since Glaze Region Lord was here, they definitely had to move together. With his speed, he quickly approached the region where Glaze Region Lord was. There weren't any problems along the way. There was no danger, nor were there any demonic beasts attacking. Just when he thought that everything was fine, a petite demon fox suddenly rushed out in front of him. There was blue fur on her body and she looked very beautiful. As soon as she saw him, she attacked him without any hesitation. Itanyun quickly dodged to the side. Then, the other party lashed out with a whip. The thick blue whip lashed over with enough power to split mountains and rivers. He quickly dodged at an even faster speed. At the same time, he observed where Glaze Region Lord was. However, the evil spirit wheel in his hand was pointed at this demon fox. Chapter 1302. Tianyun was not in a hurry to make a move. The other party continued to attack fiercely. Every attack was so familiar. Although she was waving a long whip, the attack method was almost the same. After a slight change, he knew that she should be using a ribbon. Especially this demon fox, her fur was so beautiful, and it was light blue. Wasn't the colored glaze region master of the water attribute? The surface of her body would definitely have light blue fur, and it showed its characteristics. The key was the evil spirit wheel in her hand, which clearly pointed out that the demon fox in front of him was the colored glaze region master. The evil spirit wheel would not lie, which proved that the demon fox in front of him was the colored glaze region master. It seems that the illusion here is really scary. It clearly wants us to kill each other. It's fine if we are not in the same team, but if we are in the same team, it is killing each other. Tianyun felt extremely shocked. He could not break such a powerful illusion. The colored glaze region master was even more confused. How could a trap set by an upper-level celestial lord be broken? It meant that he could not let the other party see what his true identity was. In the eyes of the colored glaze region master, what she saw was also a demon beast, constantly escaping in front of her, causing her to attack continuously. But no matter how she attacked, the other party's speed was faster by a beat, and it could avoid her attack. This made her anxious. She did not expect that the first battle she encountered when she just arrived here would be such an abnormal demon beast. There was nothing in front of her, and suddenly it came out, catching her unprepared. When she wanted to continue attacking, the demon beast in front of her suddenly took out a spear and quickly carved on the ground. She glanced at it casually and saw the words on it. "Don't attack, I am Teen. You are Sister Glaze, right? What we see should be an illusion, to make us kill each other." The speed of carving was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, a pile of words was carved. For their cultivation, the speed of carving was quite shocking, and in the blink of an eye, a pile of words was carved. Perhaps the weapon and the appearance would change, but the words carved on the ground would not have any changes. No matter how deceptive the illusion was, it could only change the state and appearance of the weapon. When the colored glaze region master saw it, she was immediately stunned and stopped attacking. Illusion? Is this all an illusion? The glazed region mistress continued to carve a line of words on the ground. Then tell me, where did we come from and what happened recently? She wouldn't believe him immediately, so she had to ask a few more questions. As for the verbal communication, to the other party, it was actually equivalent to the roar of a demonic beast. "We're from the heavenly spring divine realm. Recently you've scolded me, saying that it's not good for me to cultivate lightning power and that I should stop it." Tianyun quickly drew on the ground what had happened during this period of time. After Glazed Region Master saw it, she immediately believed it. It was really an illusion. It seems that in this stage, apart from searching for the pearl, we also have to be wary of being attacked by our own people or others. Region Lord Colored Glaze continued to carve. Yi Tianyun nodded, and also carved on the ground. Yes, as soon as they see a demon beast, they will immediately attack. There is no room for negotiation. If I hadn't dodged fast enough, I would have really died in Sister Lioli's hands. Region Lord Colored Glaze felt very embarrassed. She didn't know how Yi Tianyun found out, but it was true. How could they not attack when they first saw a demon beast? The content of this stage's test was really sinister. If Yi Tianyun wasn't fast enough to dodge, he would have died in the hands of his own people. This was the saddest thing. After such a long time, it turned out that they had mistakenly killed their own people. Now that we know, let's hurry and find the pearl. The pearl is the real key. Region Lord Colored Glaze wanted to leave as soon as possible. Right now, they had no way to break the illusion. They could only return to their original state after passing this stage. Yi Tianyun nodded, and the two of them immediately went to the locations where the 10 lives heavenly jewels were scattered. They roughly remembered where they should go. Originally, the place that Region Lord Colored Glaze was heading to was one of them. Soon, the two of them found the area where the 10 lives heavenly jewels had fallen. There was a big pit there, and the small pearl was lying there. Yi Tianyun quickly went down to retrieve it. After getting the pearl, he didn't let him return to his original state. It was as it should be, and there were no changes. After getting the first pearl, without much communication, they immediately went to look for the second pearl. Along the way, Yi Tianyun thought that this stage was really sinister. If there were 10 participants, it would definitely be an extremely tragic situation. No wonder they didn't succeed. Just this stage alone could cause many cultivators to be stuck here. If all 10 of them were on the same side, that would be the most terrifying thing. When they all collected the 10 pearls and returned to normal, they would then realize that they had killed their own people. By then, even if they passed, they would be in no mood at all. Soon, they went to the area where the second pearl was. Not long after, they easily found the second pearl. As there weren't many of them to begin with, it was very normal that it wasn't taken away immediately. After getting the second pearl, they didn't stay for long and quickly ran to the next destination. There was no way to fly here, as they were directly suppressed by an invisible force. They could only run. If they could fly freely, everything would become simple. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there were sounds of fighting in front of them. Dense explosions kept spreading on the side. Yi Tianyun immediately knew that opponents must have encountered each other and that a big battle was about to break out. They didn't have the evil spirit wheel like Yi Tianyun, which could detect the other party's true body. If they started fighting immediately, unless they avoided each other and didn't attack each other, they would end up attacking each other like this. That's where the other pearl landed. There should be a dispute. Let's go find the other pearl now and not get involved in their fight. Yi Tianyun quickly carved a line of words on the ground. Glaze Region Lord nodded. There were a total of 10 pearls here, so they would definitely choose to take the other pearls first. Now that there were 2 half-step heavenly venerables fighting, it meant that there was only one left to find the pearl. This way, they would have more chances to find the pearl in advance. You guys fight one more round. It's best if you don't stop. Yi Tianyun sneered and quickly led Glaze Region Lord to the next area. From the looks of it, the most difficult part of this stage was the fight for the pearl between the participants. There was no other danger. Chapter 1303. Yi Tianyun and Colored Glaze Region Master quickly found the next location of the pearl. The way they found it was simple. They saw a big pit and it was definitely the location of the pearl. After they found it, they realized that there was nothing at the bottom. It proved that the pearl had been taken away. That was to be expected. Let's go to the next place. They didn't waste time and immediately headed to the next place. Soon, they found the next location of the pearl, but it was gone again. They didn't hesitate and continued to run. At the third location, it was gone again. They were shocked by the shocking speed of plundering. They didn't know who was so good at plundering to get 3 pearls in a row. However, if Yi Tianyun were to sprint and plunder instead of meeting up with Colored Glaze Region Master, he might be able to get 2 or 3 more pearls. To him, it was more important to find the person first and put the rest aside for now. That's fast. Let's hurry to the next place. Lee Tianyun thought for a while and hugged Colored Glaze Region Master. Then he sprinted to the next place. This was undoubtedly faster. He had the advantage of speed. He would go faster if he could. This kid really doesn't know that men and women shouldn't touch each other. Colored Glaze Region Master rolled her eyes at him but didn't resist. She knew that she was too slow and Lee Tianyun wasn't willing to leave her behind to search for the pearl. She could only compromise. With Lee Tianyun's extremely fast speed, he soon arrived in front of the next big pit, and he finally saw the pearl. I can finally find a place that hasn't been taken. Lee Tianyun quickly went down and picked up the pearl. Just as he picked up the pearl, he felt a chill from the side. He looked up and realized that a figure had disappeared in front of him. It's the Sir God who cultivates in the ice attribute. Lee Tianyun squinted his eyes. He didn't expect the guy to be so fast. He believed that the first few pearls were collected by him. Let's hurry up and leave. The Sir God who cultivates ice attribute is searching for the pearl at high speed. Lee Tianyun continued to rush forward with Colored Glaze Region Master in his arms. His figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. He moved forward with extreme speed. Although the teleportation godstone could not be used, teleportation was not a problem. With a single teleportation, he arrived at the area ahead of him. The Glazed Region Lord was stunned. Just a moment ago, they were still standing at the big pit. How did they enter the forest the next moment? Lee Tianyun didn't explain anything. He just flew out, wanting to find the next orb before the other party arrived. After all, the pearls that landed on the ground were basically fixed in place and wouldn't move at all. The only thing that mattered was speed. If there were more cultivators, they might need to fight for it. But now, there were very few cultivators and 2 of them were fighting, so it would be faster to find the pearls. Found it again. Lee Tianyun beamed with joy. When he saw that the pearls below weren't taken away, his eyes beamed with joy. Then he went down to dig them out. Just as he dug them out, there was a dark blue figure above the big pit. When he saw the 2 figures below, he was shocked. Damn it. Why are they faster than me? They didn't come up just now. The person was naturally Sir God Ice Sparrow, who possessed ice attribute physique. He wasn't slow. Previously, his running speed was neither fast nor slow, mainly because he wanted to show his weakness. Then, when he sped up with all his might, he was still slower by half a beat. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. Similarly, he could tell that the people in the big pit were definitely the cultivators from before. However, he didn't intend to attack them. Instead, he chose to leave and search for the next pearl. Since they were smart enough to search for the pearls, and there were 2 monsters, they were definitely cultivators who had teamed up. The next moment he turned around and left quickly, heading to the next place. When Lee Tianyun saw him again, the corners of his lips curled into an arc compared to his speed. He was still too inexperienced. Then he hugged Colored Glaze Area Master and teleported into the forest. Then he ran towards his destination quickly. At that moment he had 4 pearls. The 3 pits that he had encountered previously didn't have any. This meant that 7 pearls were gone, leaving him with 3 pearls. Among them, there were 2 troops that were fighting crazily. There was no doubt that they had found the pearls, which was why they were fighting. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't intend to fight. Instead, he wanted to search for the pearls first. As he ran at top speed, Lee Tianyun found the big pit of pearls again. There was a pearl lying firmly in the pit. He quickly went down to retrieve it. After a while, Sir God Ice Sparrow returned as scheduled. What's going on? Damn it, you ran faster than me again? This is impossible. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't leave this time. Instead, he stood above the big pit and stared at them. Similarly, Tianyun stood below and looked at her. He didn't rush to take action. Lioli Domain Lord patted Lee Tianyun's shoulder and nodded lightly. Although she didn't say anything, her meaning was very simple. She wanted Lee Tianyun to hurry up and leave with her. Finding the treasure pearl was the most important thing right now. Lee Tianyun shook his head. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he held her palm and transferred some energy to her palm. It was actually just a line of words. That way, there wouldn't be a need to write it on the ground. The pearls had been looted, Lee Tianyun wrote. How do you know? Colored glaze area master asked curiously. This guy didn't leave immediately. This proves that he knows that the other 2 pearls have been taken. The other 2 Sir Gods would have taken 1 or 2 pearls, right? Lee Tianyun expressed his judgment. It was impossible that the other 2 Sir Gods were so weak. They must have been taken more or less. However, Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't start a conflict with them. If she had wanted to start a conflict, she would have definitely searched for the pearls first. Now that the pearls were gone, Sir God Ice Sparrow stood there and wasn't in a hurry to leave. After a while, he finally chose to leave. He didn't want to stay there. He didn't plan to have a conflict with Lee Tianyun. He had other plans. He left. Colored glaze area master looked up and saw. Yes, let's go. We've been busy for half a day and we still have to get 5 pearls back. Lee Tianyun shook his head. He couldn't help but say that the test was really a trap. They had been running around blindly for half a day and they had only gotten 5 pearls back. It would be great if they could get 1 or 2 more. Then, they left the pit quickly and started looking for the exit. However, they couldn't find any traces of an exit even after walking around for a long time. Could it be that this test also needs to gather 10 pearls before it can be activated? Lee Tianyun thought about it and felt that it was a trap. If that was the case, they could either team up to gather the pearls again or snatch the other's pearls. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to advance to the next test. Chapter 1304. Just as Lee Tianyun thought it was still the same as before, the jewels in their hands suddenly gathered together and formed a miniature version of the 10 lives jewels. It was much smaller than before. After it gathered together, it emitted a beam of light that guided them forward. This made the 2 of them happy. It seemed that they did not need to find all the 10 lives jewels to find the entrance. Immediately, they quickly followed the guiding light. After searching for a long time, they finally walked out of the forest. What came into view was a huge stone door. There were 10 grooves on the stone door, and it looked no different from the ones they had seen before. Do we need so many jewels to open this door again? Lee Tianyun frowned. If that was the case, it would be meaningless to guide them here. Immediately, a beam of divine light descended and enveloped the 2 of them. In the next moment, both of them returned to their original state and could see each other's real bodies. The illusion effect is gone. Lee Tianyun's eyes brightened. It seemed that it was indeed different from what he had imagined. Yes, the illusion effect is finally gone. I just don't know how to operate it now. Colored glaze region master looked at the door in front of them, not knowing what it meant. Just as they were thinking about what to do, a figure suddenly floated out of the door, attracting their attention. At the same time, all of them were on guard. Welcome, test takers. I am the device spirit of the 10,000 Gods Tower. You can just call me the Honorable Spirit. The Honorable Spirit was a benevolent-looking elder who smiled at them. The device spirit of the 10,000 Gods Tower? Lee Tianyun squinted his eyes. It seemed that they could finally meet a device spirit that knew something, instead of flying around like a fly. After exchanging glances with Colored Glaze Region Master, he said, Elder Honorable Spirit, I wonder if you can tell us what these tests mean? The cultivation of the Honorable Spirit was not weak. As a device spirit set up by an upper celestial lord, its cultivation was at the level of a lower celestial lord. Just this device spirit alone was enough to kill them in an instant. These are the rules set by the master to select disciples, so these tests were set up, the Honorable Spirit explained. As expected, Tianyun had already guessed that this would be the case. As long as one was a senior, they would more or less want to choose an outstanding disciple to inherit their legacy. Unless it was a lone wolf, they would choose a disciple to inherit their legacy. They couldn't possibly let their martial arts be completely lost, right? Not to mention them, he himself might do the same in the future. Only by doing so would he be able to select outstanding disciples. If he couldn't even pass these tests, that would be too disappointing. However, it had to be said that these tests were too difficult. Those who passed the tests were probably all perverted, right? Especially when it involved killing each other's companions. Was this really recruiting disciples? Not recruiting enemies? He didn't refute it but continued to ask, "Then what does it mean now? Do I need 10 orbs to open this door?" "That's not necessary. Instead, the door will be opened according to the number of pearls you've obtained. Different pearls will lead you to different places after opening the door. Naturally, the rewards you'll get will be different," explained the venerable spirit. "There's such a thing?" Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. That meant that they didn't need to collect all the pearls. According to the number of pearls they had, the place they were going to should not be bad. However, it didn't take long before they were splashed with cold water. However, every time the door is opened, only one person can pass through. "Don't try to barge in unless you can defeat me," explained the honorable spirit with a smile. Yi Tianyun frowned. If that was the case, they wouldn't be able to go to the same place. Different numbers of pearls would lead to different checkpoints. As for whether it would be easy or difficult, he didn't know. Now that they had 5 pearls, they couldn't divide them together unless they gave up 1 pearl. However, if that was the case, the place they were going to would undoubtedly be very bad, and there wouldn't be many rewards. "Senior Honorable Spirit, how do you define this? Is the more pearls the more difficult it is, or what?" asked Yi Tianyun. "The more pearls, the lower the difficulty. If there is only 1 pearl, then the place we are going to is 9 out of 10 deaths and 1 out of 10 lives." The honorable spirit smiled and said, "So I hope that you can collect more pearls. If you come over with 1 pearl, I think the result will definitely not be satisfactory." 9 out of 10 deaths and 1 out of 10 lives, Yi Tianyun was stunned. This was simply a huge trap. If 1 pearl was 9 out of 10 deaths and 1 out of 10 lives, then what about 2? At most, wouldn't it be 8 out of 10 deaths and 2 out of 10 lives? The difficulty was slightly lower. "So, if we get all the pearls, there is basically no difficulty to speak of?" asked Yi Tianyun. "Something like that. If we get all the pearls and open this door, we will directly get the reward. There won't be any dangerous test," explained the honorable spirit. "This is completely a trap. It is equivalent to killing everyone." Yi Tianyun frowned. The colored glaze region master's face didn't look too good either. He had to admit that these tests were really a trap. That's right. They want to kill us and let 1 person win in the end, or at least let a few people win. Otherwise, it will be meaningless, the colored glaze region master said. "In this way, we will have too few pearls. Even if there are 3, the difficulty will be doubled." Yi Tianyun shook his head. According to the saying, 3 pearls were 7 out of 10 deaths and 3 out of 10 lives. There was a slightly higher chance of survival. They didn't know how difficult it was. Maybe it would be better if 2 people worked together. It meant that they needed 6 pearls. As long as there were 6, they would be able to go to the same area. They wouldn't say that in front of the honorable spirit. After all, it was their territory. How would they dare to talk about the celestial master? If he was unhappy, he could just slap them and they would be dead for sure. Another tester is coming. The honorable spirit looked afar with a smile. Soon, Sir God Ice Sparrow appeared in their line of sight. He had also used the pearls to come over. As long as all the pearls were collected, they would automatically lead the way. Or, with a slight instruction, they would lead the way. After Sir God Ice Sparrow arrived, Sir God Lu Yuan arrived too. There didn't seem to be any problem. Finally, Sir God Sky Ripping arrived. However, Sir God Sky Ripping was disheveled. It was obvious that he had lost to Sir God Lu Yuan. Now that everyone was here, all of the 10 life heavenly jewels were gathered, which made Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. Perhaps he would have to take 1 out of each of them to balance the situation. Chapter 1305. When the other cultivators arrived, they glared at each other, especially Sir God Sky Ripping and Sir God Lu Yuan. Sir God Sky Ripping's eyes were filled with hatred, as though he was unwilling to accept the outcome. Sir God Ice Sparrow stared at Yi Tianyun and the rest, her eyes filled with unwillingness. All eyes were on Yi Tianyun. He knew that the reason the pearls could be taken away so quickly was definitely because of Yi Tianyun's speed. He had never expected Yi Tianyun's speed to be so fast. It was beyond his imagination. "Participants, you are here," the honored spirit smiled. Then, the venerable spirit repeated the general situation to them, causing their expressions to change. Especially when they heard that a single orb passing through the gate meant that there was a slim chance of survival, their expressions didn't look too good. They didn't know what kind of cultivator the 9 out of 10 difficulty was aimed at, but it definitely wouldn't be simple. Sir Honored Spirit, this 9 out of 10 difficulty, what kind of cultivation level is it aimed at? Sir God Lu Yuan stood up and asked. For any cultivation level, unless your cultivation level is at the level of a middle-level celestial master, there will be different levels of difficulty according to the strength of your cultivation level. Hence, regardless of your cultivation level, you will be treated fairly. The honored spirit maintained a faint smile. What it said wasn't pleasant at all. Their faces changed. The truth was often cruel. That was the cruel truth. If they didn't have the pearls, they would die. They wouldn't think that they were absolutely invincible. Since the honored spirit had said so, there was no need to lie to them. Such a level would usually be designed to send stronger enemies. Basically, they would be fighting beyond their level. Otherwise, why would there be a 9 out of 10 difficulty? The 9 out of 10 difficulty would definitely be fighting beyond their level, or facing an extremely terrifying level of difficulty. Otherwise, with their half-step celestial master cultivation level, there wouldn't be any difficulty that would make them feel like they were about to die. Yi Tianyun almost laughed out loud. What was his favorite level? It was the level of difficulty that was determined according to cultivation level. A crazy damage mode with 64 times effect would be able to crush the opponent. If they needed to fight beyond their level, they would at most send a 4th or 5th level Sir God, which was trash to him. In that case, what else was there to say? He only needed 1 orb. Then, Sir God Lu Yuan and the others shifted their gazes to the others. Their gazes were filled with murderous intent. In this case, he had to get more pearls. Otherwise, he would be the one to die. You can't make a move here. Whoever makes a move will end up the same as death. The venerable spirit said such terrifying words with a smile on its face. These words caused them to calm down one by one, and the murderous aura that had originally emerged was immediately extinguished. Causing trouble in front of an Empyrean was really courting death. Senior Zun Ling, is there no other way to reduce the difficulty? Asked Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord. No, unless you continue to fight for the orb. They couldn't fight here, but that didn't mean they couldn't fight. They could have a competition and place a bet, or even a duel to the death. The premise is that both sides agree to it and can't force it, the honored spirit explained. Their eyes lit up and they all focused on Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun's cultivation was the lowest, so he was undoubtedly the easiest candidate to bully. He was fast, but no matter how fast he couldn't escape when he was limited to a certain area. Kid, fight with me if you can. I have a pearl here. I'll bet with you. Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord immediately took out a pearl. He only had 1 pearl with him, so he could only bet with 1. Bet with me? That's too little. Kid, bet with me. I have 2. Sir God Lu Yuan took out 2 pearls and gestured to Yi Tianyun to bet with him. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't say anything. Instead, she stood by the side. She was like herself, a man of few words. If you want to compete, compete with me. Just then, Colored Glaze Region Master stood up and stared at them coldly. How can you compete with someone with such a huge difference in cultivation? He seems to only have the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven, but I feel that his cultivation is not weak. He must have the cultivation of a Sir God, right? Moreover, you are a woman and he is a man. If you keep standing behind a woman, are you still a man? Sir God Lu Yuan provoked Yi Tianyun verbally so that he would fall into his trap. Such words were easy to set up. After all, if one didn't come out to fight, he was worse than a woman. In their opinion, Yi Tianyun's cultivation was definitely higher than the Lord of Heaven's. Who would believe that only the Lord of Heaven's cultivation was so fast? But it couldn't be high. From the beginning to the end, they hadn't seen Yi Tianyun fight. They believed that even if he wasn't weak, he wouldn't be that strong. I challenged him first. Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord was anxious. If Yi Tianyun was killed, he wouldn't have a chance. The rest of them were half-step heavenly masters, so they didn't have much of an advantage. It's true that you challenged him, but you only have 1 pearl. Would he be willing to challenge you? Sir God Lu Yuan humphed coldly and turned to look at Lee Donyun. He said in disdain, "Kid, have you thought about it? Are you willing to hide behind a woman, or are you willing to fight me like a man? If you want to be a coward, hide behind and don't come out." Sir God Lu Yuan was good with his mouth. He had been a smooth talker since the beginning. Then he used his mouth to provoke Lee Tianyun. "Don't listen to him. Bet with me if you can," Colored Glaze Region Master said coldly. "That's enough." Lee Tianyun extended his hand and patted Colored Glaze Region Master's shoulder. He stood out and said, "All right, since you said so, I'll bet with you. 2 pearls it is." Sir God Lu Yuan beamed with joy and smiled. "That's more like a man." Then he said to Venerable Spirit, "Senior Venerable Spirit, he has agreed. Is that okay?" Venerable Spirit nodded and turned to look at Yin. "Are you sure you want to fight with him?" "Yes, I'm sure." 2 pearls it is, Lee Tianyun said. "Okay." Then, Venerable Spirit waved and they were enveloped in a divine light. The area was divided into a battlefield. As long as either party leaves the battlefield, it's your loss. Senior Venerable Spirit, fists and legs have no eyes. If I kill by mistake, is there a problem? Sir God Lu Yuan smiled and looked harmless. "No problem. As long as it's a fight, life and death don't matter," Venerable Spirit said. Chapter 1306. Sir God Lu Yuan smiled happily. He turned to look at Lee Donyun and said, "My friend, fists and legs have no eyes. Even if our cultivation is not low, once we unleash our power, it will be hard for us to retract it. Hence, you'd better run away. Otherwise, don't blame me for being too harsh." He didn't mind Lee Tianyun running away immediately. His target was the 2 pearls anyway. "Don't worry. I'd like to see if your fist or my speed is faster." Lee Tianyun smiled faintly. Sir God Lu Yuan's overall power wasn't weak. However, to him, it was just average. Sir God Lu Yuan wasn't considered the strongest half-step heavenly master. He could only be considered to be below average. As for Sir God Heaven Ripping, he was even weaker than Sir God Lu Yuan. It was undoubtedly easier to deal with Sir God Heaven Ripping. However, Sir God Heaven Ripping only had 1 pearl. How could he agree? "Let's give it a try." Before he could finish his words, the shadow of Kun Peng appeared behind Sir God Lu Yuan. The huge Kun Peng soared in the void and instantly enveloped the entire area. As he spread his wings and soared, his speed was instantly raised to the maximum. He disappeared in the void and only an afterimage was left. His speed was much faster than before. It was obvious that he hadn't unleashed his full speed when he was chasing after 10 lives pearl. He had held back. What an idiot! Does he think he's the fastest? The fastest speed is naturally our Kun Peng bloodline. We are the true king of speed. In the blink of an eye, Divine Lord Lu Yuan appeared behind Lee Tianyun and reached out his hand to pierce Lee Tianyun's back. Divine Lord Lu Yuan's hand turned into a sharp eagle claw that could even pierce through a heavenly Dao-grade weapon. Just as he thought he could kill Lee Tianyun easily, a star divine spear that was faster than him pierced through him. There was a unique power of thunder in the spear. When it was added to the star divine spear, its speed increased by another notch. Whoosh! When Sir God Lu Yuan attacked, the star divine spear pierced his body. Then, the domineering power nailed him to the ground. "It's a pity that my speed is slightly faster than yours." Lee Tianyun smirked. Under the other party's fearful gaze, Lee Tianyun lifted the star divine spear in his hand and slashed Sir God Lu Yuan in half. The domineering power pierced through Sir God Lu Yuan's soul and split him in half. He died quickly. Destroying the soul was the most important thing. If the soul wasn't destroyed, it could still be reborn. Since this place allowed him to kill his opponents as he pleased, he naturally wouldn't hold back. Sir God Lu Yuan had wanted to kill Jian Wushuang. Hence, why would he show mercy? Now, it was a complete instant kill without any hesitation. Ding! Successfully killed Divine Emperor Lu Yuan. Reward, 700 EXP, 130 Crazy Point, 80 SP. Obtained Kun Peng Bloodline, Rare, Kun Peng Claw, Superior Grade Heavenly Dao. Kun Peng Robe, Kun Peng Bangle, Superior Grade Heavenly Dao. The Lord of Heaven, who was at the side, opened his mouth wide. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be so strong, and his heart couldn't help but tremble. Fortunately, he had fewer pearls, otherwise he would have been the one to die. Too strong, this speed is too fast, how can it be faster? Divine Lord of Heaven Ripping Heavens was terrified. He felt that they weren't on the same level anymore. She also didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be faster. She only knew that Yi Tianyun had some confidence. Hence, they teamed up and fooled Sir God Lu Yuan a little to make him lower his guard. Now, it seemed that even if they didn't fool him, he could easily suppress Sir God Lu Yuan. Divine Lord Ice Sparrow squinted her eyes. There was no surprise in her eyes. Instead, she smiled faintly and said, as expected of someone who killed several Sir Gods in one go. If I hadn't seen him before, I might have really challenged him. Whoever challenges him is really an idiot. Lord of Heaven's cultivation? Who would believe? He had witnessed Yi Tianyun helping Lioli Domain Lord out of trouble and killing so many Sir Gods in one go. With such power, he didn't want to fight Yi Tianyun. He would rather fight Lioli Domain Lord. After Yi Tianyun killed him, he kept the 2 pearls and the treasures. He had obtained a half-step Celestial Master's treasures. One could imagine how bountiful it was. At the same time, he had obtained a huge pile of experience. He had even obtained the Kun Peng bloodline. If he were to absorb it, his speed would definitely increase by a notch. Kun Peng's speed was definitely top-notch. It was even more shocking than the Phoenix bloodline. If he hadn't controlled the power of lightning and mixed it into his attack to increase his speed, it definitely wouldn't be easy to deal with Sir God Lu Yuan. Plus, Sir God Lu Yuan had indeed let his guard down. He thought his speed was supreme. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to hold back too. Then, Tianyun came before Lioli Domain Lord and smiled. I didn't disappoint you, did I? Of course not. I didn't expect you to cultivate the power of lightning and add it to your attack. I was wrong about you. Lioli Domain Lord naturally saw the power of lightning that Yi Tianyun had exploded. It seemed that the power of lightning wasn't cultivated randomly. It could be added to one's attack. It's all in the past, Yi Tianyun smiled. He had been misunderstood many times anyway. He couldn't be bothered to explain. It would be better to use it as a trump card. Then they had 7 pearls. The remaining 3 pearls were in the hands of the other 2. Yi Tianyun stood out and looked at the 2 of them. He said, who wants to continue to challenge me? I welcome you. The stakes will be the pearls in your hands. Sir God Heaven Ripping's face changed. He didn't dare to challenge Yi Tianyun anymore. However, if he didn't challenge him, it meant that he wouldn't be able to increase the number of pearls. In that case, the effect of a narrow escape was basically no different from death. Sir God Ice Sparrow, who was next to him, didn't say a word. She just stood at the side quietly. But, don't you dare to challenge me, the Lord of Heaven? Didn't you shout happily earlier? Didn't you say that you wanted to challenge me? Now that your opponent is dead, it's your turn to challenge me, Yi Tianyun smiled. Nonsense. How could you possibly be the Lord of Heaven? You are definitely at the level of a Sir God later stage. With your cultivation speed that I don't know how, even a half-step Heavenly Master isn't as fast as you. Sir God Heaven Ripping roared. Then he pointed at Lioli Domain Lord and said, I want to challenge you. I wonder if you are willing to fight with me. Chapter 1307. Glaze Region Lord smiled sweetly when she heard that the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord wanted to challenge her. Then she stood up and smiled. You're willing to challenge me, but I'm not willing to accept your challenge. What about you? Are you willing to challenge me once? Glaze Region Lord did not accept the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord's challenge. Instead, she asked Ice Sparrow Divine Lord. I'm not going to challenge you. I think 2 pearls are good enough. I don't need to earn too much. Ice Sparrow Divine Lord rarely spoke, but her words were so cowardly. The Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord was delighted. If Ice Sparrow Divine Lord refused, he would have a chance. It would be good enough if he could win once, let alone how many pearls he would win. If he killed Glaze Region Lord, The pearls she was wearing would belong to him. It seemed like he was only betting one pearl, but he was actually betting all the pearls. He had seen everything. Tianyun had taken the pearls from Glaze Region Lord. After winning, he had given the pearls to Glaze Region Lord, which meant that the rest of the pearls were with Glaze Region Lord. Alright, since you don't want to challenge me, I'll accept your challenge. Glaze Region Lord felt helpless. If Ice Sparrow Divine Lord did not agree, she could only accept the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord's challenge. That's great. The Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord was so happy that he almost cheered. Then, he said to the spirit, "Senior, she has agreed. Can we start?" He wanted the spirit to start immediately, as he was worried that Glaze Region Lord would change her mind. It would be troublesome then. Sure. The spirit waved its hand and the two of them were separated, forming a fighting ring. The Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord rushed over as soon as the fighting ring was formed. Sharp claws appeared on his hands, and his body enlarged rapidly, turning into a huge dragon leopard. He had dragon scales on his body and the astonishing explosive power of a leopard. His claws were extremely sharp, each of them comparable to a middle-grade Heavenly Dao level. This was their unique talent, which was extremely sharp claws. They could tear the world apart. Coupled with the power of the dragon blood, the tearing power was several times stronger. In the blink of an eye, the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord had already arrived in front of the Colored Glaze Region Lord. He swung his sharp claws down mercilessly and wanted to tear the Colored Glaze Region Lord into pieces. The void in front of him was torn apart by his ferocious claw. It really felt like the sky was being torn apart. The seemingly ordinary grab had already frozen the space around the Glazed Region Lord. There was no chance for her to escape. Die! Sir God Heaven-Ripping looked ferocious. At the same time, he vented the anger in his heart. Previously, he had lost to Sir God Lu Yuan and he was unhappy. Now, it was different. Being able to kill a half-step Empyrean could prove his strength even more. The key was that he would be able to obtain quite a number of orbs, which would allow him to successfully pass this test. Colored Glaze Region Master's gaze turned cold. She was already prepared. She waved the blue ribbon in her hand quickly and it rolled towards the sharp claws of the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord. When the ribbon met the sharp claws, logically speaking, it should be the ribbon that was torn to shreds. However, the sharp claws were quickly bound by the blue ribbon. In the blink of an eye, a large circle was wrapped around the claws. The originally violent attack suddenly became powerless. The tearing force had already become powerless. Oh no! Sir God Heaven-Ripping's expression changed. He wanted to reverse his attack hurriedly. He had not expected that his attack would be controlled so easily. He grabbed down violently, but it turned soft, without any strength at all. That was the scariest part. He couldn't exert any strength at all. It's too late. Glazed Region Lord's eyes emitted blue light. She waved the ribbon in her hand rapidly and it rolled towards her body along with her bound hand. Soon, it wrapped around half of her arm and fixed the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord firmly. Break! Sir God Heaven-Ripping clenched his teeth and decisively cut off his arm. His body retreated rapidly and blood splattered everywhere. Glazed Region Lord waved the ribbon in her hand and the blood was reflected. Not a single drop of blood splashed on her body. However, Sir God Heaven-Ripping had escaped. When he felt that he couldn't break free, he had immediately chosen to cut off his arm. That was a decisive method. However, if he hadn't done that, he would have been bound inside and out by the ribbon. By then, he would have been strangled to death, let alone break free. The ribbon wasn't an ordinary treasure. It was a top-notch superior-grade Heavenly Path weapon. It was stronger than an ordinary superior-grade Heavenly Path weapon. Sir God Heaven-Ripping, who had cut off his arm, immediately started to stop the bleeding. At the same time, his severed arm started to regrow rapidly. It wasn't a difficult task for him. He would only need some time to regrow his severed arm. It was just that Glazed Region Lord's attack had shocked him. It was only then that he realized that he had fallen into a trap. Glazed Region Lord wasn't weak at all. She looked like a woman, but her fighting style was definitely different. She could restrain his power. Thinking about it carefully, she had so many jewels. Wouldn't it be a temptation for them to continue challenging her? In fact, that was indeed the case. If she had the jewels, they would definitely challenge her. No one would challenge Tianyun. No one would want to challenge the King of Speed. Even Kuan Peng wasn't as fast as him. What was the point of competing? It was only then that he realized that he had fallen into a trap. As for Sir God Ice Sparrow, she obviously noticed that something was wrong. That was why she wouldn't challenge him. Glazed Region Lord didn't wait for him to think clearly. She took the initiative to attack. She waved the ribbon in her hand and instantly encircled the area like a thick city wall. Sir God Heaven Ripping had nowhere to escape from such power. Blue Ice Strangle. Glazed Region Lord tightened her grip and the ribbons around her tightened rapidly. Sir God Heaven Ripping couldn't escape even if he wanted to. He could only resist with all his might and charge towards Glazed Region Lord. However, this was Glazed Region Lord's territory right from the start. He had already lost. After 2 rounds of fierce attacks, Glazed Region Lord used the ribbon to trap him. Finally, Sir God Heaven Ripping was tied up. With a hard pull, Sir God Heaven Ripping exploded and turned into dust. Everything had been so easy. Her attack had restrained Sir God Heaven Ripping. It wouldn't have been a problem for her to win this round. We won. Glazed Region Lord took the spoils and smiled as she walked to Tianyun's side. Chapter 1308. The battle was won easily. Tianyun knew that Glazed Region Master wasn't weak. She was strong. I relied on my advantage. If it was someone else, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with, Glazed Region Master said humbly. Glazed Region Master was also modest. She knew that what she was up against was exactly what she could restrain. Otherwise, it would be really troublesome. They looked at Sir God Ice Sparrow. Tianyun smiled and said, "Which one of us would you like to challenge?" There was only Sir God Ice Sparrow left. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't show off. No one knew how strong he really was. Maybe the appraisal I could tell a lot, but only when they fought would they know how strong he was. I said I'm not interested. 2 pearls will do. There's no need for too many. Sir God Ice Sparrow's face twitched. Actually, it wasn't that he didn't want more pearls. He saw that they were strong. If he messed around, he might be the one to die. The best way was not to challenge them. 2 pearls was too little. If he used them to open the door, it wouldn't be 9 out of 10, but 8 out of 10. Overall, it was bearable. If he were to fight against them, he would definitely die. Even if he surrendered and escaped, he would be trapped there. It was no different from death. All right. They were disappointed. They didn't accept Sir God Sky Ripping's challenge at first because they wanted to challenge Sir God Ice Sparrow. How could Sir God Ice Sparrow accept the challenge once they showed their shocking strength? She would definitely challenge those with more pearls. Even if Sir God Sky Ripping didn't dare to challenge later, there would at least be 9 pearls. Of course, the number wasn't bad either. There were 8 pearls. On average, each of them had 4 pearls. The effect was pretty good. It seems that you don't want to continue fighting? The honored spirit smiled and said, "If so, you can distribute the pearls among yourselves. I'll emphasize again that the more pearls you have, the better the item will be. At the same time, the difficulty will be lower. On the other hand, the item will become worse and the difficulty will increase tremendously. Honored Spirit, if we enter with 4 pearls, will we be assigned to the same place to experience the test?" Tianyun thought for a while and asked. "No, both of you are in an independent space, so you cannot interfere with each other," said the Venerable Spirit. "Is that so?" Tianyun frowned. This way, even if they all had 4 orbs, they wouldn't be able to go to the same place. They wouldn't be able to help each other. "It's okay. Anyway, I'll take a little less. You take 5 and I'll take 3. This is a very reasonable distribution," Glazed Region Master suggested. She knew that Tianyun had some ability, but it was still too difficult. It was better for her to side with Tianyun. Tianyun thought for a moment, then said, "All right, I'll take 1 and you take 7. That's the best way to split it." "What?" Glazed Region Master was astonished. Even Ice Sparrow Divine Lord was dumbfounded after hearing that. The honored spirit smiled and said nothing. It was their business to make their choice and he would not meddle in it. Just like that? Sister Lioli, have you forgotten my abilities? Lee Tianyun smiled. Abilities? Glazed Region Master didn't quite understand what was going on, but she quickly understood what was going on. She had a look of realization on her face, but she still looked worried. But will it really be like that? Won't it be based on your previous performance to set the difficulty for you? The abilities that Lee Tianyun was talking about was the ability to fight beyond his level. With his current cultivation, it was impossible to arrange a half-step heavenly master for him. Even if it was arranged, he still had a chance to deal with it. What happened just now was the best performance. But according to the normal Lord of Heaven, arranging a third or fourth level Divine Lord would be enough to easily kill him. Lee Tianyun calculated according to this loophole, and Glazed Region Master immediately reacted. But what she was worried about was whether it would be based on his previous performance. If that happened, it would not be an ordinary expert. It's okay. I believe it will be based on cultivation. It won't be too much. Lee Tianyun smiled. Previously, the Honorable Spirit said that it will be based on cultivation, not the previous situation. That's true. Glazed Region Master's eyes lit up, and her heart was set. If it was based on cultivation, Lee Tianyun would definitely be able to win easily. Since he could win easily, Lee Tianyun might as well give the rest of the orbs to Glazed Region Master. This way, he could also maximize the rewards. They might not be able to get 10 orbs, but they could at least get 7 orbs as a reward. The treasures left behind by an upper heavenly master were definitely extremely precious. After a moment of transmission, they immediately decided on what to choose. Then Lee Tianyun took only 1 orb and stuffed it in the door. Senior Honorable Spirit, I have already chosen the difficulty. This is it. Lee Tianyun said. All right, I will start the difficulty now. He was too lazy to care about what the examinee chose. Anyway, whatever the examinee chose, whatever the master ordered him to do, he would do it. Rumble. Soon, the door slowly opened. Lee Tianyun looked back at Glazed Region Master and smiled. Very soon, we will meet again. I will wait for you. Glazed Region Master nodded and watched as Lee Tianyun stepped into the portal. Crazy, crazy, really crazy. You have so many orbs, but you don't use them. Instead, you are stepping into a dangerous situation. Sir God Ice Sparrow shook his head, but he did not think much about it. Soon, he took 2 orbs, put them in, opened the door and left. Finally, it was Glazed Region Master's turn. She opened the door of the 7 orbs, and then stepped in. Everything quickly returned to its original state and returned to peace, as if nothing had happened. At the same time, the orbs were taken by the Honorable Spirit again. They could not take back the 10 orbs, so they could only return. The Honorable Spirit held the 10 lives orbs and slowly raised his head. This time, the speed of the restart is too fast. It is 10,000 years faster than before. Last time, it took 10,000 years. This time, it is over in just a few years. Then he raised his hand and the 10 lives orbs disappeared in the air. The next moment, it appeared in the sky above the 4th level. Then, it fell hard and created a big pit on the ground. At the same time, the cultivators immediately sensed the situation above and exclaimed, "A treasure has appeared! A treasure has appeared!" Chapter 1309. After Lee Tianyun stepped into the space-time door, he appeared in another world the very next moment. In this world, there was nothing around him. It was pitch black and he couldn't see anything. This feeling was extremely helpless. There was nothing around him, not even a point of reference. His whole body was in a special space of nothingness. There was nothing and he didn't know where he was. Where exactly is this place? Lee Tianyun quickly spread out his spiritual consciousness to explore. However, his spiritual consciousness couldn't spread too far as it was firmly sealed in the vicinity. He had just entered but he didn't feel any dangerous aura. He was just tightly sealed in here and everything was so quiet. His surroundings were too ordinary and he didn't feel any danger. Is this what it feels like to have a narrow escape from death? Yi Tianyun looked around. This feeling of a narrow escape from death wasn't that real. When he felt that there was no danger, suddenly, a murderous vibe came from all around him and penetrated him without hesitation. Yi Tianyun felt an extreme sense of danger behind him. If he didn't dodge, he would die immediately. The next moment, his figure flashed and he disappeared from his original position. With a teleportation, he escaped from that sense of danger. He quickly turned around and saw that it was empty. There was nothing there. It was as if everything was just an illusion. There's nothing there? Yi Tianyun's pupils shrank and he shifted his gaze to the top. He used his spiritual consciousness to explore, but he couldn't find anything strange. It could even be said that even when he used the appraisal eye, he still couldn't find anything strange. That's strange. There's nothing there? Yi Tianyun frowned and wondered if it was an illusion. However, when he wanted to continue exploring, suddenly a murderous vibe came from behind him again. It came very quickly and very suddenly. This feeling was the same as before. It was terrifying. Immediately, his figure flashed and he disappeared from his original position. With another teleportation, he escaped from this area. Then, the murderous vibe disappeared again and he turned around at an even faster speed. This time, he didn't use his spiritual consciousness but used the appraisal eye to look around. Void Spirit has the ability to walk inside the void, can pass through the invisible ordinary spiritual sense cannot detect, can assassinate people invisibly. His cultivation was at God Monarch level 5, and he specialized in assassination. So it's the Void Spirit. There's actually such a thing. Yi Tianyun finally knew what it was. It turned out to be the Void Spirit. Void spirits were extremely rare, and they possessed a heaven-defying ability to walk within the void. This was equivalent to walking in another world, separated from the outside world by a layer of glass. The inside could see the outside, but the outside could not see the inside. This was the biggest difference between the two. It could be said that this was a heaven-defying ability that would cause most cultivators' expressions to change. He was simply the king of assassins. Unless one's spiritual sense was very heaven-defying, there was really no way to sense it. By the time they sensed it, they were already dead. The way to break it was actually very simple, and that was to break the void and shatter it. That way, the other party would be forced out. The void spirit was good at hiding. As long as the void was shattered, the other party would have nowhere to hide. This ability that it was so proud of would naturally be useless. The prerequisite was to have the power to shatter the void. Different regions of the void had different levels of firmness. The void here was a very strong void. It was not something that ordinary cultivators could shatter. As expected of the difficulty of 9 deaths and 1 life. It even gave out a void spirit, and the surrounding void is incomparably sturdy. The difference in cultivation is so great. If it was an ordinary cultivator who came in, he would definitely die. Yi Tianyun shook his head. No wonder it was called the difficulty of 9 deaths and 1 life. Just this alone was frighteningly difficult. However, everything was within his expectations. There was still some difficulty, but it did not exceed the scope of his expectations. Especially the other party's cultivation. God Monarch level 5 was indeed heaven-defying, but it was not a half-step heavenly venerable or even a heavenly venerable. Just this point alone was not a problem. To others, it was 9 deaths and 1 life, but to him, it was 10 lives. Soon, this feeling attacked him again. Suddenly, it came from the side. This time, Tianyun did not dodge. Instead, he stood where he was, waiting for the killing intent to attack. He suddenly turned around, reached out, and stabbed the void. Clang. The sturdy void was like glass, broken by his poke. Then he grabbed the sharp longsword. However, his palm was unharmed. The sturdy evil lord of heaven set and the dragon god bloodline provided him with terrifying defensive power, allowing him to easily grab the other party's longsword. Get out! Yi Tianyun dragged the other party out. A phantom was dragged out by him. Before the other party could struggle, he smashed it down. With a dong, a large hole was punched through the other party's body. Pitch black blood splattered everywhere. Looking closely, this void spirit was like a phantom. However, if it was hit, it would still bleed continuously. Your strength. The void spirit was in disbelief. He never thought that he could be killed in a second under such circumstances. Not only was his cultivation much higher than the other parties, but he was also hiding in the extremely sturdy void. It really was a level of 9 deaths and 1 life. The difficulty could be said to be abnormal to the extreme, but he was still crushed by Tianyun. What's wrong with my strength? Tianyun rubbed his ears and smiled faintly. Speaking of which, every time you say this, you always talk about my strength. Don't you have anything else to say? The words were exactly the same. It could only be said that because the ending was the same, the topic was definitely the same. The void spirit turned around and wanted to escape, but how could he outrun him with his speed? Immediately, Tianyun quickly stepped over and crushed the void spirit with 1 foot. He didn't even bother to wait for the other party to escape, let alone let him go. For the time being, regardless of whether they are following orders or not, if he wants to pass this level, he must kill this guy. Ding, ding, successfully killed void spirit. Reward, 370 compressed EXP, 70 compressed crazy point, 50 compressed sin point. Reward, void bloodline, rare, void god art, low-grade heavenly Dao level martial art, void stone. Chapter 1310. So this is the difficulty of having a 90% chance of dying? It's really difficult. I wonder if there's a next stage? Tianyun didn't know if there was a next stage. After all, this stage was already as difficult as ascending to the heavens. If his cultivation was a little higher, he might be able to obtain even stronger void spirits. Of course, it might not be void spirits, but existences of other realms. At the very least, he felt that this level of difficulty was at a 90% chance of dying. If there was a next stage, it would be too much of a trap. While he was guessing, his surroundings changed rapidly. In the void, there was a long passage that led to an unknown place. Tianyun didn't think too much about it and directly walked forward. The passage under his feet was actually a stone path. There wasn't anything special about it. However, when he stood on it, he immediately felt that it was solid. It wasn't like the previous empty feeling where he couldn't feel anything under his feet. Looks like the exit is up ahead. Tianyun continued to walk forward. Before he could walk far, the path in front of him was immediately cut off. The stone path under his feet had disappeared. There wasn't even a single brick. Just like before, there was only emptiness around him. However, there was a slight change this time. There was a door of light in front of him. It looked like an exit. He immediately flew towards the door of light. However, no matter how he flew, it was pointless. He couldn't get close to the door of light. Instead, the distance between him and the door was getting further and further. Spatial lock, I can't get close at all. Tianyun frowned. This kind of spatial lock was very normal. Unless one's cultivation was heaven-defying, there was no way to break it. Based on his current situation, there was no way he could break this spatial lock. Don't tell me I have to stay here forever? Tianyun looked around and finally shifted his gaze to the stone path behind him. He thought for a moment, then picked up the stone path from behind. I can really pick it up. It should be like this. Tianyun held the stone path in front of him. When he threw it forward, it floated in the air. It was the same as the stone path behind him. They were all neatly aligned without the slightest bit of crookedness. Following that, he picked up the stone slabs one by one, threw them out one by one, and walked forward step by step. Now, they could really get close to the door of light. They didn't expect this to be a test of their wits. If he didn't use his brain, he would be like a headless fly, flying around aimlessly. However, when he thought about it carefully, it wasn't that difficult. It was just a little troublesome. He had to pick up the stone slabs and lay them down one by one. It was really troublesome. Although it was troublesome, at least there was no sense of death. This test also tests comprehension? Tianyun was helpless. He laid down the stone slabs one by one and quickly walked to the light door. He lifted his foot and walked towards the light door, disappearing into the void. After Lee Tianyun entered, the door of light quickly closed and everything returned to normal. When he reappeared, he found himself in an open space. There were 3 stone tablets erected in front of him. 3 martial arts were written on them: Phantasmal Gold Divine Technique, Phantasmal Gold Void, and Phantasmal Gold Sky Absolute. Every single one of them was a high-tier Heaven's Path martial art, not an ordinary martial art. Congratulations, you have successfully passed the test of 9 deaths and 1 life. This is your reward. You can choose any martial art here. The figure of the venerable spirit flew out, still maintaining its smile. As the spirit of this place, the venerable spirit could naturally appear wherever it wanted. It could appear wherever it wanted. Everything was under his control. As long as they were inside the statue, he would be able to observe their every move. Nothing would escape his eyes. This is the reward. It looks quite generous. 1 orb can get you a high-grade Heavenly Path martial art. If you get 7 or 8 orbs, won't you get even better treasures? Although that was what Lee Tianyun said, he still felt that it was a bit too much. The difficulty was so high, and it only gave 1 martial art? It wasn't easy to get the orbs, but to pass these tests, the difficulty was really scary. No, I was actually lying to you before. If you really get a good treasure, the fewer the orbs, the better. The higher the difficulty, the better the treasure. If you have more orbs, the difficulty will indeed be lower, but the treasure will be less, and the grade will be lower. The venerable spirit said with a smile. Lee Tianyun was startled. He didn't expect it to be a lie. It was obvious that it wanted them to fight and get more orbs, lower the difficulty, and get more treasures. But I don't think these rewards are that good for passing this test. Lee Tianyun's face was stiff. A martial art was enough to make him go away? This is not good. Maybe you can only choose 1 martial art, but if you successfully cultivate any one of them, you can become the master's disciple. You can even become the master of this place and enjoy all the treasures. Do you think this reward is not good enough? The venerable spirit said with a smile. The other examinees who obtained other martial arts will not get this special honor after cultivating. It should be said that they need to continue the test in order to get this opportunity. So, it is more difficult for those who obtain the orbs to be selected? Lee Tianyun frowned. This was really a trap. It is not like that. It just needs to be tested a little more. Because of your comprehensive ability, you only need to cultivate this martial art and successfully reach the 3rd level. Then, you can become a disciple. The venerable spirit threw out an extremely tempting reward. I can become a disciple after reaching the 3rd level. Is it that simple? Lee Tianyun was surprised. It seemed that choosing 1 orb was not bad. The premise was that he could pass. If he could pass like this, then there was nothing to say. He was so fierce in fighting against those who were stronger than him. How could he not get a good reward? If this was not good, then what was good? This is not a simple thing. If you want to cultivate successfully, you need to go through a lot of training. But, if you can even get the most basic, you will at least have the qualification to become a disciple. The venerable spirit said with a smile. Lee Tianyun nodded and did not say anything. Anyway, he just needed to choose 1 to cultivate. I will choose this Golden Phantasm Divine Art. Lee Tianyun pointed to one of the martial arts and said, Golden Phantasm Divine Art? Not bad. You have a good eye. This is the best martial art among the 3. The venerable spirit waved its hand and the other 2 stone tablets disappeared. Only the Golden Phantasm Divine Art was left. Now, you can sit here and cultivate. I hope you can understand this Golden Phantasm Divine Art as soon as possible. Chapter 1311. Lee Tianyun immediately sat down to meditate. To be exact, he was constantly probing and analyzing this heavenly Tao level martial art. Martial arts were more difficult to understand, but it wasn't difficult for him. It was just a matter of time before he could successfully understand it. The appraisal I would analyze everything inside and out, and would be able to analyze everything that could be analyzed. This would allow him to better comprehend, and he wouldn't feel any discomfort. After a series of crazy analysis, he immediately succeeded in cultivating the first layer and continued to cultivate the second layer. In a short week, he successfully understood the second level again. When he was ready to cultivate the third level, he realized he was stuck here. I knew the third level wouldn't be that easy. Otherwise, how could I become a personal disciple? Tianyun shook his head. He was completely stuck here when he cultivated to the third level. It wasn't that his analytical ability was too bad, but he needed a hard condition to continue cultivating. This hard condition was very simple. He had to cultivate the power of golden mirage and convert it into the power in his body. Only then could he cultivate to the third level. The first two levels didn't need this hard condition, so it was easy to cultivate. This was the same as when he cultivated to become a divine lord. He needed 3 planets. He hadn't reached it yet, mainly because it wasn't easy to find them to absorb. If he wanted to cultivate successfully, he had to have the power of golden mirage. Either he could cultivate it, or he had to forcefully cultivate it. The latter was undoubtedly the most difficult. The power of golden mirage wasn't easy to cultivate. First, his body had to lean towards the metal attribute. Only then could he cultivate it successfully. Fortunately, Tianyun's body didn't have to worry about this, so he could cultivate this attribute at will. If it was the glazed region lord, it would be too difficult. His body was originally of the water attribute. It wasn't a problem to forcefully cultivate the power of golden mirage, but it was too difficult to perfectly match it. But if he wanted to become a personal disciple, he had to do so. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to cultivate to the third level. Looks like I have to find a place to cultivate this power of golden mirage. Tianyun stood up. The venerated spirit stayed beside him and didn't choose to leave. Senior venerated spirit, can I go somewhere else to cultivate? There were so many places with dense mirage gold power here. Any one of them would be better than staying here. Yes, you can choose anywhere you want. You can go to most of the places in the 10,000 Gods Pagoda. The revered spirit waved its hand and images appeared in front of him. This included the previous trial checkpoints, which could be repeated. However, the places they would go would be the same as before, and there would still be the same dangers. You can go to most places? Tianyun's eyes lit up. I wonder where my companion is now? He was more concerned about Lioli Region Master's current situation, and he didn't know if she had passed the test. She hasn't passed the test yet, but you can wait for her at the exit, the spirit explained. Still haven't passed the test? Tianyun frowned. It had been so long, why hadn't he come out yet? Especially with 7 pearls, it shouldn't be too difficult. Yes, but don't worry. She's safe and won't be in any danger. I should say that she has passed the test, but she hasn't come out yet, the spirit said. I see. Tianyun nodded. If that was the case, she should be getting her reward, comprehending something, or doing something else. He thought for a moment, then nodded and said, All right then, send me to her exit. The spirit did not say much. It waved its hand and Tianyun disappeared on the spot. The next moment, he appeared in another area. When he appeared here, the surroundings were empty and there was no danger. In front of him was a special passage that led to an unknown place. However, there was indeed no danger here. This was the exit, so naturally, there wouldn't be any danger. Tianyun did not leave. He sat on the ground and began to check his loot. Compared to this, he was more concerned about the bloodline that he had recently obtained. 2 amazing bloodlines, both of which were excellent. Kuanpang bloodline and Void bloodline, huh? Tianyun thought for a while and immediately used it without hesitation. This thing was different from other bloodlines. It could provide him with a lot of help. Ding, successfully used Kuanpang bloodline. Kuanpang bloodline, level 1 can greatly enhance one's speed. Currently, it has increased one's speed by 100 times. At the same time, it can enlarge one's body and turn into a giant Kuanpang that soars in the sky. Ding, successfully used Void bloodline. Void bloodline, level 1 allows the user to enter the void. Different cultivation levels allow the user to enter different void worlds. At the same time, it has the power of the void. It can turn one's body into the void, rendering the opponent's attack ineffective. The effect increases as one's cultivation increases. He was very satisfied with the effects of the two bloodlines. At the same time, he was even more amazed by their effects. Kunpeng's power was very brutal. It was only at level 1, but it could increase one's speed by 100 times. If it was upgraded to the maximum level, wouldn't it explode? Void bloodline was also not bad. It could enter the void and render the opponent's attack ineffective. It was basically an effect of invincibility. However, there was definitely a limit. If there was a huge difference in cultivation between the opponent and the opponent, he could still be killed with one punch. This was the same as Yi Tianyun before. Even if the opponent was a void spirit, he could still be killed with a single spear strike. As long as the level goes up, the effect will definitely be greatly improved. Let me see the experience. When he saw the required crazy point, he immediately took a deep breath. The next level of Kunpeng bloodline directly requires 3,000 crazy point. This is really crazy. Upgrading one level will cost a lot of crazy point. 3,000 crazy point, although I can afford it, but it will definitely be a lot later. Yi Tianyun resisted the urge to upgrade. He now has a lot of crazy point, but he didn't dare to spend it casually. It's a few thousand at once. 2 levels and it's less than 6,000. If he upgraded 1 or 2 more levels, he will have nothing left. He just waited for the time when he needed to upgrade. This is undoubtedly the best effect. Anyway, it's not difficult to upgrade, and he can use it immediately. I don't know if I will encounter another opponent who forced me to upgrade. Yi Tianyun thought of the evil spirit domain lord. He was really forced to upgrade crazily before. Immediately after he was ready, he began to absorb the power of fantasy gold around here. The concentration here is not high. The main thing is that he can wait for Luli Domain Lord to come out. Chapter 13:12. Yi Tianyun sat on the spot to absorb the power of the golden magic. It was not difficult. It could even be said to be relatively simple. As he absorbed crazily, his body was quickly filled with the power of the golden magic, which flowed throughout his body. His whole body began to glow with a faint golden color. However, this was different from condensing a core, which was only absorbed into the body and converted for his own use. To condense a core, it was very difficult. Usually, the fastest way was to absorb the core and convert it for his own use. Yi Tianyun was not condensing a core now. He just wanted to absorb it for his own use, so that his body would have the power of the golden magic. When he wanted to continue absorbing, there was a sudden fluctuation. He quickly opened his eyes, revealing a strange smile. Then, his figure flashed, and he entered the void. There was not a crack in the void. It looked very normal. Then, a beautiful figure appeared in his sight. It was the Colored Glaze Region Master. After the Colored Glaze Region Master appeared, she looked energetic. There was nothing wrong with her. After coming out, she landed in this area. After looking around, she glanced at Yi Tianyun, but she did not find anything wrong with him. Yi Tianyun stayed in front of her, not moving at all. In the void, it was like he was separated by a layer of water. He could see the situation outside, but the situation inside was no different. It was just that this place was safer. It was like a special safe passage. For example, when it rained outside, there was no wind or rain in the void. He could even avoid some special attacks. Some were hard to avoid, such as attacks that could even tear the void. There was really no way to avoid them. She really can't find me. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was only at the first level, but he could make a half-step celestial master unable to find him? Of course, it was mainly because he did not move. Without moving, his aura did not fluctuate, so he naturally would not attract the Colored Glaze Region Master's attention. After coming out, the Colored Glaze Region Master found a place to meditate. She seemed to be thinking about something. Then, she turned her head to look at the exit behind her. After a few more glances, she did not look anymore. She stayed where she was and meditated. Yi Tianyun tried to walk over step by step, completely concealing his aura. However, when he moved, glazed region master suddenly opened her eyes and stared in his direction. It was obvious that she had felt a strange fluctuation. Although he had concealed his aura, there would still be fluctuations, especially when facing a half-step Empyrean. Unless his void bloodline's grade increased, a half-step Empyrean would still be able to discover his existence. This time, Yi Tianyun immediately stopped moving and stood in place. The Lioli region master looked at them suspiciously and then obediently closed her eyes. She didn't feel anything unusual. Yi Tianyun smiled in his heart. It seemed that he had only discovered a little fluctuation. Since his spiritual awareness couldn't detect anything, the colored glaze region lord thought that it was an illusion. Yi Tianyun continued to take a few steps forward. Suddenly, Lioli domain lord attacked him, and the blue ribbon directly passed through the area where Yi Tianyun was. The reality was that it passed in front of Yi Tianyun and could not touch him at all. He was inside the void, not outside. After the attack, the colored glaze region master did not find who she had attacked. She wondered, strange, was it an illusion? She did not stop. Instead, she stared at the area where Yi Tianyun was. After staring for a long time, she fiercely threw out the blue ribbon in her hand. It turned into a long spear and pierced towards him. Dong! The void was directly pierced, and the attack was really coming towards Yi Tianyun. A cold light flashed in Yi Tianyun's eyes. He quickly dodged to the side and stepped out of the void. Sister Glaze, wait, it's me. Yi Tianyun smiled and walked out. When the colored glaze region master saw him, she was surprised and happy. Boy, you actually scared me. Have you passed? It's rare that I was worried about you. Who knew that you would play tricks on me? Ahem, I was just teasing you. I didn't mean anything else. Yi Tianyun smiled. If you didn't mean anything else, then what did you mean? I was so worried about you. The colored glaze region master said with a straight face. Sister Glaze, I didn't do it on purpose. Yi Tianyun scratched his head awkwardly. He did not know what to say. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Who asked you to scare people? The colored glaze region master smiled. Speaking of which, what martial art was that? You could actually hide in the void. This reminds me of the void spirits. They have the ability to enter the void. You can also enter the void. It is really surprising. This is not a martial art. It is the ability of the void spirits. That is why I can enter the void. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. You obtained the ability of the void spirits? The colored glaze region master covered her mouth in shock. Is this your reward for passing? You can say that. Yi Tianyun could not say that it was from killing the void spirits. It was more appropriate to say that it was the reward here. This reward is amazing. How did you do it? Didn't they say that the fewer the orbs, the worse the reward? The colored glaze region master shook her head. Then Yi Tianyun roughly explained what happened. After the colored glaze region master heard it, she said in shock, There is such a thing? It seems like it was all a lie. No wonder my reward was so ordinary. It was only a mid-rank Heaven's Path martial art. I thought that only 8 or 9 orbs or more would be able to get a better reward. It turns out that the fewer orbs, the better the reward. But my difficulty was not high. I passed it relatively easily. That's right. We were all lied to. Yi Tianyun shrugged helplessly. While they were talking, the Zun spirit suddenly appeared and said with a smile, Congratulations on passing the test. Since you passed the test in the 7th stage, if you want to be selected as a direct disciple, you must first pass 2 stages before you can be selected. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. It was indeed a trap. He still needed to pass 2 more stages before he could be selected. He only needed to cultivate to the 3rd level, and he would be selected. The gap between the 2 was really not small. 2 stages? The colored glaze region master frowned. Yes, 2 stages. As for what it is, please go forward and you will know. The spirit smiled at Yi Tianyun and said, However, you cannot participate. You can go to that area, but you will be assigned to an independent space. You cannot interfere with each other or help each other. Chapter 13:13. Well, I thought that we could go together, but it seems that we can't. Lee Tianyun felt helpless. It seemed that they couldn't go to the trial together. Don't worry, the next 2 levels won't be difficult for me. What are you worried about? Region Master Lioli smiled and said, Don't forget, I'm a half-step heavenly master, and a region master at that. If I can't handle this, then there's no need for me to be a region master. That's true, Sister Lioli can't be that bad. Lee Tianyun smiled and said, although they couldn't go to the trial together, he believed that Region Master Lioli would definitely pass. If she couldn't even pass this, then she would be a disgrace to her title as a region master. After chatting for a while, Region Master Lioli walked forward. She didn't continue to stay there. Previously, she meditated here not because it consumed too much energy, but because she wanted to see if she could wait for Lee Tianyun to come. If it wasn't because she was waiting for Lee Tianyun, she would have left long ago instead of waiting here. After Region Master Lioli left, Lee Tianyun thought for a while and asked, Senior Spirit, if I enter the other space and can force my way into the other space, will you drive me out? You can't force your way into other spaces. The spirit still maintained a faint smile. It was a smile full of confidence, as if everything was under its control. What if I can force my way in? Lee Tianyun narrowed his eyes and asked. I've said it before, you can't force your way into other spaces. If you can really force your way in, then we won't kick you out and let you do whatever you want in that space. As for the danger, we won't make any guarantees. The venerable spirit kept smiling, especially the first half of the sentence. It could be said that it was resolute. In its opinion, Lee Tianyun couldn't break his master seal, so it had absolute confidence. Tool spirits were different from phantom spirits. They had their own personality and wisdom, and they could judge the situation by themselves. Now, it was certain that Lee Tianyun couldn't break it, even if it was a narrow escape. All right, thank you for your reminder, Senior Zunling. Lee Tianyun smiled and walked forward. If he went out from here, he would definitely go to the area where Glaze Region Master went. However, after he went in, he would still be separated, and the 2 of them would not be able to meet. Lee Tianyun didn't care about that. He just wanted to see if he could pass through it. That way, the 2 of them could pass through the trial together. At the same time, he wanted to see if his void bloodline had such an effect. After passing through a long passageway, Shaochen arrived before a door of light. After stepping through the door, he saw mountains of gold. Once again, he arrived in a world filled with gold. This was a very simple mountain of gold. There were countless golden forests on them, and the stones under their feet were all golden. Actually, they were all formed by the power of illusory gold. It looked like a golden world. However, the pure golden world did not seem dangerous at all. He strolled along the way without any danger. Everything was so normal. It was as if he was walking in his own backyard. There was no sense of danger at all. It seems that after being recognized, there won't be any dangerous tests. It's dangerous enough to be able to fight so many people above my level. Lee Tianyun now understood what the Zunling had said. If he trespassed into another's area, he would have to go through layers of trials just like them. If he stayed in his own area, it would be extremely safe and there would be no danger at all. Here, it was like a paradise for cultivating the power of illusory gold. He could cultivate as he wished, and there would be no danger. No wonder he was allowed to choose any location. It was extremely safe. If he went to other places, he would absorb the power of illusory gold, and there would be no danger. Let me see if I can pass through it and have a trial with Sister Glaze. Lee Tianyun wanted to go through the trial with Glaze Region Master. It would be best if both of them could achieve their goals. That way, they would be able to obtain greater benefits. He had successfully cultivated the 3rd level, but he had only reached the level of a direct disciple. It did not guarantee that he would become the master of this place. Therefore, he was not in a hurry. He wanted to pass through safely with Glaze Region Master. As he probed along the way, he realized that this place seemed to be endless, and he could not see any flaws. Everything was so natural. If spiritual senses could see flaws, the Zunling would have been starving a long time ago. Then his silhouette flashed, and he wanted to enter the void. At this moment, he realized that he could not enter at all. He was stuck outside. I can't get in. It really is a sealed space. Lee Tianyun was not surprised. If he could enter like this, then he would be dreaming. It seems that I have to upgrade it. The effect of the bloodline of the void is not bad. The bloodline of the void focused on assassination, and it could also hide. It was comparable to a special skill of invisibility. It could even be said to be more useful than invisibility. Invisibility meant escaping. This allowed him to enter the void and evade attacks. It was definitely a type of bloodline that had reached great success. The bloodline of the Kuanping could only be upgraded next time. Now, he just wanted to try and see if he could pass through these sealed spaces. It seemed to be a waste, but it was also a test. In the future, no matter who sealed him, as long as he has this shuttle ability, he can easily slip away and not fear any sealed space. Upgrade the bloodline of the void. Lee Tianyun immediately chose to upgrade the bloodline of the void, and in an instant, 3,000 crazy compression points were deducted. It can be said that a large amount of crazy point was deducted. If he hadn't killed many evil spirit race, he really wouldn't have so many crazy points to deduct. Ding! Successfully upgraded the bloodline of the void to level 2, the effect increased by 10 times. Can travel through stronger void, and can resist stronger attacks, according to the user's cultivation. The next level requires 8,000 crazy compression points. All of a sudden, he lost a lot of crazy compression points, but the effect has increased by 10 times. He suddenly felt that his bloodline of the void is much stronger. As expected of a level 1, it already needs so many crazy points. Let me travel. Lee Tianyun's figure floated, and he actually forcibly tore the space and immediately drilled into the void. Sure enough, after the upgrade, even if it is the seal of the heavenly venerables, he can still enter. To be exact, it should be the seal of the tool spirit. After all, it is operated by the tool spirit. After the upgrade, he can finally go in. After entering, he felt that everything was different. It made him feel like he was in a mezzanine. Looking around, he saw dozens of spaces superimposed together. In each space, there are different cultivators, constantly in the trial. There is no doubt that he can now travel through any space and enter the domain where they are. Chapter 13-14. As soon as he entered the void mezzanine, Lee Tianyun was able to observe everything as if he was the master of the void mezzanine, and he could see everything clearly. This level up was not in vain. When Lee Tianyun saw this scene, he felt that all his efforts were not in vain. This meant that he could go to other worlds and travel through this void illusion. When that time came, taking the treasures would be as easy as taking something out of his pocket. When he wanted to continue moving forward, the spirit suddenly came in from the void. This was the territory of the spirit. If it wanted to come in, it could. It was not difficult at all. What void? It was an area under its control. No one could escape from its control. You can break through the void and come in? Finally, Tianyun saw a different venerable spirit, and he was shocked by himself. If it was a phantom spirit, he wouldn't be shocked at all. They did not have intelligence, unlike weapon spirits that had their own consciousness. Therefore, the spirit was really shocked. It was very sure that Lee Tianyun would not enter other areas. Now, not only could he enter other areas, but he could also enter other places. It could be said that it was a heavy slap to the spirit's face. Senior spirit, I wonder if I can go in as I please? Lee Tianyun responded with a faint smile. It was the same smile as the spirit before, as if he was imitating its calmness. Senior spirit, you have said that as long as I can enter other spaces, you will not disturb me. After the spirit looked at him for a while, it smiled again. I have said this before. You can go to any space as you please. I will not stop you. Correspondingly, the dangers in other spaces are not something I can remove. Think about it yourself. After the spirit finished speaking, it disappeared into the void. It did not stop Lee Tianyun. What it had said before, it would naturally fulfill it. It would not go back on its words. After the spirit left, Lee Tianyun let out a sigh of relief. If the spirit went back on its words, it would not be strange. Fortunately, it would not go back on its words. It was just traveling through other spaces. It was not a serious matter. However, doing so would indeed disrupt the situation here. Originally, they could only clear the stages alone. Now, they could clear the stages together. Naturally, they were disrupting the order of this place. Fortunately, the Honorable Spirit didn't have such thoughts. Otherwise, it would be really troublesome. Yi Tianyun immediately scanned the area, and soon, the area where the Glazed Region Lord was located appeared in his line of sight. There were countless golden men around the Glazed Region Master, and they attacked him. Regardless of whether it was a rock, a tree, or the golden grass on the side of the road, they would all transform into a golden man and pounce on him. These golden men were of different sizes, and all of them were attacking fiercely. Every golden man's cultivation was at the late-stage God Monarch realm. Their cultivations were not as good as the Glazed Region Masters, but their numbers were astonishing. They swarmed forward and attacked, causing the Region Master to fall into a bitter battle. The main reason was that there were simply too many of them. They had to madly defend themselves, and it seemed like it would take a long time for them to reach the end. According to the rules of this stage, one had to stay here for a month to be considered to have passed. Under the frenzied siege of so many golden men, one had to persevere for a month. The difficulty of this was really abnormal. Not only the Glazed Region Master, but the other trial takers were also in the same situation. They were all surrounded by countless golden men, and they were constantly in a bitter battle. The most terrifying thing was that huge mountain suddenly stood up and transformed into a huge golden man that slammed down, wanting to flatten the trial takers. The trials that these trial takers had to go through were all the same. It seemed that there were quite a number of people who really came here. There were still quite a number of other cultivators who stayed here. He thought that there should be quite a number of cultivators who stayed in other areas. It was impossible for there to be so few people choosing disciples. They were just one of the groups. Since the pearl had been taken away, a new group of people would definitely be selected. There was no need to worry that there would be no cultivators coming here. They could feel the stronger celestial venerate power here. How could there be no strong cultivators coming here? This was just like the original god-slaying pagoda. It was densely packed with people. As long as there were benefits, no matter how dangerous it was, there would be bold, strong cultivators coming here. It was impossible to have more opportunities without danger. It's really a different scene. Yi Tianyun turned his attention back to the Glazed Region Master to see what her current situation was. The blue ribbon in the Glazed Region Master's hand was constantly waving, and there was no pressure at all. She constantly sent the golden men flying out. It was not necessary to kill them. As long as she persisted for a month, she would succeed. As expected of Sister Glazed. Her overall strength is strong enough. It seems that this level is not difficult for her at all. Yi Tianyun did not go out to help. Everyone had their own pride, especially this kind of superior strong cultivator. If he forced himself to come in and help without too much pressure, it would be an insult to her. Therefore, Yi Tianyun was not in a hurry to go out to help. He came in to try to see if he could break through the void, and also to cultivate. In this void mezzanine, he could feel more power of magic gold. The intensity was several times stronger than in the void mezzanine alone. Cultivating here was undoubtedly the best choice. He immediately sat down to meditate and quickly extracted the power of magic gold here to speed up his metal attribute physique. Only then could he cultivate the third level of the magic gold divine art. However, it was still too slow. It would take a lot of time to strengthen his physique. Too slow. It would be good if I could go faster. Yi Tianyun shook his head. When he wanted to continue cultivating, he suddenly felt a burst of special fluctuations coming from the Glazed Region Master's side, causing him to quickly open his eyes. He saw that the Glazed Region Master was surrounded by several giant golden men, each with the power of a half-step heavenly venerable. This time, the Glazed Region Master was completely surrounded, and she could not escape even if she wanted to. Boom! A trial taker on the side was smashed into pieces by this giant golden man. The terrifying combat power of the golden men was definitely off the charts. They were smashed to death just by facing one. The glazed region master had to face several of them, which made the difficulty much higher. Even if she is a half-step heavenly venerable, isn't it a little too difficult to face so many of them at once? Tianyun frowned. He felt that everything was so strange, something was wrong, and suddenly he thought of the venerable spirit. Is it possible that the venerable spirit deliberately increased the difficulties so that I could attack him? Chapter 13:15. Could it be that my participation has increased the difficulty for Sister Azure Glaze? What exactly is this spirit thinking? Tianyun frowned. He had not planned to join the battle, but now it seemed that if he did not join the battle, Azure Region Master's situation would become more and more dangerous. In the end, she would end up like the other challengers, being slapped to death by these golden men. Azure Region Master's attack was very powerful, but these golden men could be said to be immortal and could not hold on for too long. In particular, there were several terrifying golden men. Their towering bodies covered the area, and they could cover a large area with just a stretch of their hands. There was no way to avoid them easily. As the pressure increased, the glazed region lord was forced into a perilous situation and was almost hit by the attack. Boom! While Tianyun was thinking, the golden men had already landed a heavy punch and sent Azure Region Master flying. Fortunately, Azure Region Master was only sent flying by the force of the vibration and was not hit. Even so, she was at a disadvantage. Blood flowed out of her mouth, and it seemed that she was slightly injured. She was not hit, but under the violent vibration she would still be injured. Looks like I can only give it my all? Azure Region Master wiped the blood off the corner of her mouth, and her eyes glowed with a faint blue light. She was ready to explode. If she used all her strength, she would definitely cause some damage to herself, but that was all she could do for now. Immediately, her body flashed with a dazzling blue light, and she turned into a water god. Just like before, she had the ultimate power of the water god. The blue ribbon in her hand instantly spread out. At this time, it was no longer like a ribbon, but a thick wave, bombarding out wave after wave. The power increased by several times. Under this crazy attack, the surrounding golden men were sent flying. Taking advantage of this gap, Azure Region Master quickly escaped from their encirclement and quickly escaped to the side. Her attack was very strong, but the opponent had an immortal body. Even under a heavy blow, a large part of her body would be dented at most. She would quickly recover, and there would be no difference from before. This was the most terrifying thing. What she needed now was to maintain her state and not fight with them. It was not worth it at all. The requirement to pass was to persevere, not to kill these golden men. Moreover, even if he wanted to kill it, he wouldn't be able to. It really belonged to the indestructible category. It wasn't that she didn't want to kill them, but she simply couldn't. Or, she would need a lot of strength to kill them. However, there was no end to them. Killing them was useless. Boom. At this time, several statues suddenly appeared from the golden mountain in front of them. Such a huge creature once again blocked the path of the glazed region lord. The colored glazed region lord was completely blocked. Not only were there golden men blocking her from the front, but there were also people blocking her from the back. This place was completely blocked, and there was no way out at all. Looks like I can only go all out. She did not feel that anything was wrong. She only felt that the difficulty was increasing. Perhaps this was a test for her. There was no such thing as surrender here. It was either pass or die here. Immediately after, Glazed Region Master exerted all her strength to launch a fierce attack. She threw out one move after another, blasting away the pile of golden men. However, every time he was sent flying, the other party would pounce on him again. It was as if he was fighting for nothing. For these golden men, there was no pain and no fear. Therefore, they were not afraid no matter how crazy they were. Just when she wanted to go all out and fight until the end, a light figure pierced through the sky and hit the huge golden man fiercely, accompanied by a loud noise. This golden man had a hole pierced through. Then, with a fierce sweep, the golden man was directly sent flying. The golden man did not die, but at least for a short period of time, he would not be able to get up. Sister Glazed, let me help you. The one who came out was naturally Yi Tianyun. Now that things had come to this, he could only quickly kill his way out. At present, Glazed Region Lord could still resist. If he waited until she was exhausted before coming out, it would really be too late. This kind of transformation into the power of the water god required too much strength. Therefore, it was best to quickly come to help, and not wait until she was exhausted before coming in. At that time, she would not have any fighting strength. Now that the two of them were fighting side by side, there was still hope that they could continue. When Yi Tianyun fought alone, it would be much more difficult. Why did you come in? Glazed Region Lord was stunned. Didn't they say before that he could not enter their space at will? How could he come in now? It's a long story. Let's escape first. Yi Tianyun hugged Glazed Region Lord. Under the double superposition of the Kuan-Peng bloodline and the Phoenix bloodline, he directly turned into a light figure and disappeared on the spot, shaking off the golden men that were rushing over. With the double-speed bloodline, even these golden men could not catch up to him at all. Relying on this speed alone, it had already put him in an invincible position. Glazed Region Lord's speed was not as fast as his, so she could not easily avoid these golden men. Now it was different. With Yi Tianyun to save the situation, she would definitely be able to avoid everything. After killing his way in a distant corner, the venerable spirit flew in the air and stared at this side. Finally, let me see how high your potential is. The higher the potential, the more valuable. Everything was led by him. Yi Tianyun did not guess wrong. It should be said that there should be no need to guess. Yi Tianyun had already seen it. There were so many cultivators here, but Glazed Region Lord was being attacked crazily. It was impossible to say that it was not aimed at him. After Yi Tianyun came in, he quickly ran away with Glazed Region Lord, but the next scene became more and more terrifying. Everything around them started to move. Originally, there was a fixed batch of golden men. Now, all the areas started to boil. Piles of golden men appeared and surrounded them. There are more and more of these golden men. This venerable spirit is simply trying to kill us. Yi Tianyun was a little annoyed. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't bring people into the void, he would have already escaped with Glazed Domain Lord. Only he could enter the void, and the others could not be brought in. How do you want to kill us? Is this the difficulty of the venerable spirit? Glazed Region Lord was confused and did not know what was going on. Yes, I have the ability to enter the void, so after I followed you in, I was able to pass through the seal and come to your side. At the same time, I saw many cultivators who were trial takers like you, but they did not receive this treatment. It was a very normal trial. This is clearly to make things difficult for us and increase the difficulty of the trial. Yi Tianyun said helplessly, in this case, it is my fault. These were all caused by him, so naturally it was his fault. This is really your fault, but it doesn't matter. Your punishment is to escape with me and hold on for a month. Glazed Region Lord was not angry at all. Yi Tianyun came over to help her. Chapter 1316. Yi Tianyun took Lioli Domain Lord and fled quickly, but facing the golden golems all around him made him feel a headache. His speed is very fast, but if the countless golden golems turn into a wall, he can't pass through it. Replace Divine Sword Supreme Set. Yi Tianyun immediately transformed into Divine Sword Supreme State, reached out to the void, and tens of thousands of reincarnation level long swords instantly flew out from the storage ring, turned into an extreme sword array, and quickly scattered around. Explode! After the dense sword array penetrated out, it directly exploded in the center of the golden golems. Tens of thousands of reincarnation level longswords exploded. That kind of feeling can be imagined. The terrifying explosion directly released the full power. This is a killing formation. Boom! A strong explosion erupted in the middle of the group of golden men, directly blasting them into golden powder that drifted in all directions. Even though they had immortal bodies, they were not truly immortal. As long as they were strong enough, they could still be killed. Ding! Successfully killed Golden Golem, God Monarch 7th level. Obtained 25 compressed EXP, 10 compressed crazy point. At the same time, obtained power of Golden Magic, Crystal. Ding! Successfully killed Golden Golem, God Monarch 6th level. Obtained 24 compressed EXP, 10 compressed crazy point. Obtained power of Golden Magic, Crystal. Ding! Successfully killed Golden Golem. All of a sudden, hundreds of sturdy Golden Golems were blown into powder, a lot of experience swept over. This is the value that can only be achieved by stacking 64 times crazy experience mode. It is enough to see that the experience of this Golden Golem is too low, but at least it is still a lot. If it was a real God Monarch cultivator, the experience gained would be terrifying. However, it is a bunch of Golden Golems, it is good to have a little experience. This was similar to the phantom he had killed before. The experience he gained was pitifully small. It was practically a symbolic point of experience, and it wouldn't seem so shabby. Under this explosion, the experience gained is not small. Some of the Golden Golems were blown to pieces, but because they did not die, naturally they will not get any experience. At least under this explosion, it can make a gap, allowing Tianyun to quickly fly over with Lioli Domain Lord. However, after the explosion, many of the gold men quickly recovered, and some of them directly emerged from the ground. Everything was endless. If the EXP algorithm was the same as before, then it would be crazy to earn money. At that time, no one would be able to drag him away. He would definitely earn a huge sum of money here. Right now, the EXP wasn't low, but the price he had to pay was too high. Tens of thousands of divine swords have been blown up, but only a hole has been blown up. These guys are too hard. Tianyun shook his head. In the explosion just now, at least tens of thousands of golden men were affected. In reality, only a small portion of them could be killed, which was a few hundred golden men. It was a pitiful number. Most of them were in a mess. Some of them only had their heads left, so they couldn't be considered dead. As for the remaining heads, the surrounding golden soil quickly gathered around them and restored their bodies. There was no pressure at all for them to regrow their heads. After being reborn, he continued to rush over, wanting to kill Tianyun. What a strong power! Region Master Colored Glaze didn't think so. Such a strong attack had already exceeded her by a lot. It was definitely comparable to the power of a true heavenly venerable. The huge golden man on the side had lost more than half of its body after this explosion. But it still didn't die. Instead, it quickly healed. The strong recovery ability gave them a headache. The honored spirit, who had been staring at this side, was taken aback. It was frightened by this scene. What a strong power! It's already comparable to a true heavenly venerable. What kind of move is this? How can it be so powerful? The honored spirit was just an artifact spirit. Naturally, it couldn't see what was going on, let alone know what kind of move it was. Now, it was constantly controlling the golden men and quickly recovering. The power of magical gold around it was mobilized to heal these golden men. It had been here for so long, but this was the first time it had seen such terrifying power. It wasn't that this power was extremely terrifying, but the power that erupted from Tianyun didn't match his cultivation at all. How could a powerhouse from the Lord of Heaven explode with the power of a heavenly venerable? This puzzled the honored spirit and made him wonder if he had made a wrong judgment. However, based on his experience and judgment, it was impossible for him to make a wrong judgment. The Tianyun in front of him indeed only had the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven. However, the cultivation that erupted was beyond his common sense. He had seen countless powerhouses and countless geniuses barging in here, but this was definitely the first time he had seen such an existence. Tianyun couldn't be bothered with the situation here. He quickly fled forward with Lioli Region Master and released tens of thousands of reincarnation-grade divine swords again. These were all plundered from the evil spirit's celestial realm. They were simply weapons that could be found on the streets. After releasing them, he began to harvest them crazily. This time, it wasn't like before, where he needed to explode crazily to break through this golden iron wall. He just needed to continuously harvest the golden men that pounced on him. Before they could even get close, they were cut into countless pieces by these tens of thousands of divine swords. Of course, he needed to cut a lot of swords to be able to cut them into several pieces. These guys were too tough. Each of their physiques was at the level of a superior grade reincarnation grade weapon. There were even inferior grade heavenly Tao grade weapons. Therefore, it was very difficult to cut them. He needed to attack a few more times. Fortunately, he had a lot of them. Although the other party had many golden men, could they compare to his densely packed divine swords? After he transformed into Sword God, he could control 100,000 reincarnation grade divine swords at the same time, which was enough to slaughter his way through. Clang, clang, clang. These weapons continued to be swung around, and over time, they broke by themselves. After breaking, they would quickly be replenished. He could still maintain the 100,000 divine swords and continue to harvest the many golden puppets. What a powerful move! To be able to control so many divine swords, it requires very strong mental control. Why didn't I know that you were so strong before? This is simply beyond many geniuses. Lioli Region Master was stunned. Yi Tanyun was a true legend. He could control many divine swords and kill enemies from thousands of miles away. Under his crazy harvesting, the golden puppets couldn't get close. Based on this situation, he would definitely be able to last for a month. There are too many things you don't know. This is only a small part of me. Yi Tianyun smiled. Good. Then I want to see what surprises my junior brother Tianyun can continue to give me. Lioli Region Master smiled, her beautiful eyes filled with anticipation. Chapter 1317. Yi Tanyun took Lu Li Domain Lord and shuttled back and forth, easily killing many golden puppets. Even if he can't kill them, he can at least block them outside and not let them get close to them. Judging from the current situation, there is no problem. After watching for a while, the venerable spirit finally chose to give up. The surrounding golden puppets began to soften into piles of golden sand, and no longer solidified. It means that it has given up on making things difficult for Yi Tianyun. After all, there is no pressure to continue to make things difficult for Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun has amazing speed, and with the protection of many divine swords, he is already in an invincible position. Unless he increases his strength and attacks crazily, if that is the case, it will be considered as exceeding the limit and not in line with the assessment content. Yi Tianyun also saw that the number of golden puppets did not increase, but began to collapse rapidly, which means that they have successfully passed this level. This venerable spirit is no longer making things difficult for us. It seems that we are going to win. Yi Tianyun smiled. Even the venerable spirit can't stop them. Although a lot of golden puppets disappeared, they still retain the most basic value, no more and no less. The number of golden puppets is the same as the beginning. This is the real trial. There is no need for Yi Tianyun's help. Lu Li Domain Lord can easily solve it. This time, Yi Tianyun was finally able to put the Azure Glaze Domain Lord down, instead of holding her all the time. He also thought that men and women should not touch each other. Seeing that Lu Li Domain Lord is not displeased, his heart is relieved. Next, Yi Tianyun did not stay idle. He used 100,000 divine swords to madly attack, especially those golden puppets that are transformed from a mountain, again and again fiercely attacked, smashing them. Lu Li Domain Lord thought that Yi Tianyun is venting his dissatisfaction with the venerable spirit. That's why he continued to attack. He is indeed extremely dissatisfied with the venerable spirit, but he will not go crazy at will. He is taking advantage of this gap to earn more experience and crazy point. Every little bit counts, so he did not stop. Lu Li Domain Lord also did not stop. He attacked fiercely from the side. This way he can continue. As time passed quickly, in a blink of an eye, a month has passed. In just a month, the surrounding golden puppets instantly collapsed. Everything turned into golden powder and drifted around. Everything returned to normal, exactly the same as when they first came. At this time, a path began to appear in front of them, leading to another area of light. Past, let's go. Yi Tianyun nodded to Lu Li Domain Lord and walked forward together with Lu Li Domain Lord. disappearing completely from this world. When they reappeared, they appeared in another spacious space. There was nothing inside, just an empty space. Congratulations on successfully passing the trial. However, according to the rules, only you have passed the trial. The Zun spirit pointed at the colored glaze region lord. Lu and Yi Tianyun said and Yi Li Tianyun. Tianyun is Li domain lord. An and said Yi Li an and back an and forth. You passed the test, this is your reward, choose it yourself. The venerable spirit waved its hand. 3 treasures floated in front of Lu Li domain lord. Generally, they are high-grade Heaven's Path treasures. It can be said that they are very good treasures, extremely tempting. Immediately, Lu Li domain lord quickly chose the treasure that suits him. Next, you have a trial. As long as you pass the last trial, you can become a personal disciple. The venerable spirit said with a smile. But this time, you cannot interfere. If you interfere, then her trial will be regarded as a failure. The venerable spirit is finally not confident enough. It cannot guarantee that Yi Tianyun will not interfere. If that happens, is this still a trial? There is no need to do anything. Senior venerable spirit, did you increase the difficulty before? Yi Tianyun asked without hesitation. This is very uncomfortable for him. Yes, I increased the difficulty. It is because you broke the rules that I increased the difficulty. The venerable spirit said with a smile. What? Didn't you say before that there is no problem even if you enter other people's space? Yi Tianyun frowned. There is no problem. It does not mean that I cannot increase the difficulty. The venerable spirit's answer made Yi Tianyun do not know how to refute. This is other people's territory. He can increase the difficulty however he wants. This is really not wrong. He did not go back on his words, he just increased the difficulty. Yi Tianyun frowned. He did not say much. This is other people's territory, it is useless to say more. But this is also a trial for you. There is no reward, but I can arrange an excellent training place for you. It can speed up your absorption of the power of magic gold, so that you will be many times faster than her, the venerable spirit said with a smile. Lu Li domain lord is also absorbing the power of magic gold. She is unknowingly absorbing more power of magic gold as she passes through the trial. If she wants to enter the next trial, or if she wants to stay in the next trial, she must absorb more power of magic gold. This means that her body has been mixed with the power of magic gold. It seems that there is no problem for the time being. If that's the case, Yi Tianyun nodded and said, all right, then arrange for me to go to that place. Since he can't help, he can only go to that place to train, and quickly train up the level, then he can become a personal disciple. Sister Lu Li, you have to work hard in the next checkpoint. Yi Tianyun encouraged her. Isn't that for sure? Maybe I will become a personal disciple faster than you. Lu Li domain lord smiled and said, this time I will compete with you, and see who is faster. Of course, I am faster. I only need to train for a while, and I will reach the standard. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, is that so, then compete. If I become a personal disciple first, then you will lose, otherwise I will lose. Lu Li domain lord smiled and said, no problem. Speaking of which, if I lose, what is the punishment? Yi Tianyun asked. I haven't thought about it yet, let's wait for the results to come out, then I will think about the punishment. Lu Li domain lord smiled at him, then turned around and walked to the last trial. She didn't consume any energy, so she can enter the next trial at any time, so there is no need to stay there. After Lu Li domain lord left, Yi Tianyun turned to look at the venerable spirit and said, Venerable spirit, I am ready. I can go to the place you mentioned at any time. The venerable spirit nodded and waved its hand. A ray of light shrouded Yi Tianyun, and he disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in a flat place. There is nothing here, only a field of golden sand. Chapter 13:18. As expected of a special cultivation place, the illusory gold power is dozens of times stronger than other places. Most importantly, there is an illusory gold core here. Lee Tianyun narrowed his eyes. There was no doubt that there was an illusory gold core underground. A huge illusory gold core could provide more illusory gold power. This was beyond doubt. No wonder the god spirits said that the cultivation environment here was excellent. Now it seemed that it was absolutely the best. There was even an illusory gold core here, not to mention its effect. Lee Tianyun probed a little and could feel that the illusory gold core below was extremely huge. It was at least equivalent to a 4th grade core. It was far better than the cores he had seen before. The cores he had seen before were of the 1st or 2nd grade, and the highest was of the 3rd grade. It was definitely the first time that he saw a 4th grade core. A 4th grade core was very huge, but it was not many times bigger than a 3rd grade core. It was just a little bigger. The key was that the power contained in it was many times stronger than before. This was the effect of a high-grade core. It was not that the bigger the better. The level of the energy inside was the most important. Illusory gold core? It seems that I can cultivate another one? Lee Tianyun narrowed his eyes. He now had 3 cores in his body. What if he condensed 4? Compared to the thunder attribute core, the metal attribute core was not bad. So far, there was no thunder attribute core for him to absorb, but he could absorb the metal attribute core. It would still be enough for him to absorb 3 planets. He just needed to put down the thunder attribute core temporarily. There would be no problem if he did not continue to expand it. Of course, even if he expanded it, it would not be a problem. It would not conflict too much with the other attributes, and it would have a mutual enhancement effect. In this way, the power would be increased. But now he could only absorb the metal attribute core, so how could he waste it? Immediately, he began to absorb the surrounding core energy crazily and quickly condensed the illusory gold core in his body, which was the high-level metal attribute energy. Under the crazy condensation, the surrounding illusory gold power rushed into his body and condensed into a core in his body at an extremely fast speed. This speed shocked the god spirit, who was observing from the side. What a strong suction force! If this continues, it should not be a problem for him to cultivate successfully. Looking at Lee Tianyun, who was meditating below, the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. No one knew what he was thinking. Lee Tianyun didn't know what King Spirit was planning, but he wanted to absorb the fantasy gold power to form a planet with a fantasy gold core. This way, he would be able to achieve his goal and break through to the divine monarch realm. When the Lord of Heaven broke through to the Divine Lord realm, he could even casually crush a half-step Empyrean. As for Empyrean powerhouses, he had the strength to fight. Moreover, after he broke through to the Monarch God level, he would still have a lot of experience points to level up. When the time came, he would be able to reach the middle stage or late stage of reach. That would be an absolute crushing victory. When the time came, he would charge into the evil spirit divine realm again. At that time, even the evil spirit divine realm master would be trampled under his feet. Under the rapid absorption, the core power in his body grew stronger and stronger, and the condensed core grew larger and larger. He continued to extract more core energy from the illusory gold core as if it didn't cost him anything. Anyway, since Zun Ling wanted him to cultivate here, how could he be polite? Basically, he was crazily extracting energy without holding back. He couldn't wait to empty the illusory gold core. He really wanted to move away, but if he really did, he would definitely be cut into pieces. Since King Spirit was watching, unless he was 100% sure that he could escape, he wouldn't dare to do so. Under the rapid condensation, the core in his body grew larger and larger. Soon, it began to condense a huge planet, and it grew larger and larger. Compared to when he wanted to condense a lightning planet, it was much faster. The two were not on the same level. As time passed, the planet in Lee Tianyun's body grew larger and larger. Golden clouds, golden earth, and golden mountains. Everything was golden. It looked very beautiful. It was a golden planet. Everything was going according to his pace. If this continued, the 3rd planet would be perfectly condensed. Especially when metal was born of water, it just so happened that it corresponded to his water planet. Everything was going smoothly. After a few months of absorption, Lee Tianyun finally condensed the 3rd planet. The huge illusory gold planet was far more eye-catching than the other two planets. In fact, this was related to the level of energy. This was the illusory gold force. The rest were all condensed from first-grade cores. At most, they were second-grade cores. The difference between them could be imagined. It's finally condensed. It's really difficult. In these few months, Tianyun had only condensed the planet. He didn't do anything else. Comprehending the third level was thrown aside. The most important thing was to condense the planet. As long as the condensation was successful, the rest would be easy. It's almost time. I'm ready to cultivate the third level. With this illusory gold planet, the third level is easy. Tianyun smiled. Originally, he wanted the illusory gold force constitution. Now, he even had the illusory gold planet, which far surpassed the illusory gold force constitution. Immediately, he raised his head and asked, "Senior King Spirit, did my friend pass the trial? You should be able to answer this question, right?" He had been here for a few months. He didn't know if the Glazed Domain Lord had passed. "She didn't pass the trial." King Spirit said simply, "She didn't pass? It seems that the difficulty of the last level is quite high." Tianyun nodded. Sure enough, it was the last level. He just hoped that there wouldn't be any danger. "Then send me back to comprehend the stone tablet. I think I should be able to comprehend it." Tianyun said. "Good." King Spirit's eyes lit up. This was a good thing. Then King Spirit waved his hand and Tianyun disappeared. He looked up and saw the stone tablet of the illusory gold divine technique. If he wanted to comprehend it, he had to return. Only by comprehending it could he use it. It was useless to forcibly remember it. Then, he didn't think much and immediately began to comprehend the third level. With the support of the illusory gold planet, the analysis speed was quite amazing. Almost immediately, he analyzed 10% of it. It wouldn't take more than a day to analyze all of it. After a few hours, Tianyun suddenly opened his eyes, and two golden light burst out from his eyes. "Finally, I succeeded in cultivating." He turned his head to look at King Spirit and said, "Senior King Spirit, I have successfully cultivated the third level." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.